right as I was starting to record. And I was like, what? Like I had it for, I don't know, over 10 years. It was like for my piano.
Mhm.
And it just completely like it broke. It was the plastic that broke too. It just like had enough of me. So just complete. And I was like cracking up. Um, and then I just never got one. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to hold this thing. And I just kind of like it.
Oh, well, that was a beautiful start.
It was
Nice.
hilarious. I was like, what? It just like fell in half, like in my hand. I'm like, okay. So yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Now it's just my look. That's how I convince myself that this is meant to happen.
Yeah.
Funny.
Carter, go ahead. I don't want to start talking too much.
So I think we started.
Oh, we're live?
I think we are. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
why
I was just
like-
saying, I've never done a
Oh,
live
hey.
stream on YouTube before.
Mhm.
So this is very weird.
I don't want to start talking too much.
Okay.
Oh, I hear it back.
Yeah. That's why we got a little latency.
So this is super weird because now everybody's gonna have to bear with me because I'm now hearing this on
That's
both
okay.
like my Zoom and my
I hear it back.
yes, right?
Whoa. Okay. I'm
It's
not
kinda
ready for
trippy.
this level of tripping.
Yeah.
So, yes.
What are you
Okay.
using?
Am I the only one who's hearing it twice?
No, yeah, we
Nope.
hear it too.
You're hearing it twice. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how do I stop that?
I don't know if you have the original sound on or off. That might be causing an echo.
Let me see. Let me see if I
don't know if you have the original sound on or off. That might be causing an echo.
the original when you say the original sound, what does that mean?
If you go into your settings, oh my God, this is absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
And also
Um,
horrifying if you hate hearing yourself back. It's like a nightmare.
Oh my God, I know exactly how that goes. I can't even listen to my own podcast because I hate it.
So go into my settings.
Same.
If you, oh God, I keep hearing it. If you go under music and professional audio, it
Okay.
says show in meeting option to enable original sound.
Is it the input volume that I lower or the output?
My guess would probably be the output. Try doing that first. There we go. Can you hear us?
That I lower or the output?
Oh,
No, I think
my guess would probably be the output. Try doing that first.
yeah.
Okay.
The output just makes what?
Can you hear me right now as I'm talking, or is there that much of a latency? Because I hear it, and then a couple seconds later, it plays back again.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing too.
Okay, so it seemed like when you turned down your output volume that kind of helped, but I'm not sure if that completely disables when we're talking too. See, I don't hear it now.
So if I lower my output volume, how does that sound for everybody?
I don't hear anything now.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Yeah,
but
now
I
it's
can
good.
barely hear you guys.
Oh, crap. Do you have us out loud or in headphones? Does that matter?
Okay.
I feel like I should know this stuff better.
I'll try a little bit louder because otherwise I can't hear you.
This is fine. How are you doing with that?
Yeah, I don't hear the echo right now. Can you
don't
hear
hear
us
the
okay?
echo now? I'm
I can
hearing
hear-
the delay.
Okay, I can hear it very, very faintly.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
Oh, this is so weird. So annoying. I don't know what to do about it.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that you're recording it? Or do you have to record it to go live?
Does
it have anything to do with the fact that you're recording it?
Maybe. I mean, I can stop. Okay. Try that. Did that work?
I don't know. Okay, wait, we got to talk a little bit more.
We have to talk so I can.
No, I was waiting to hear Courtney again.
Sorry, everyone. You're getting I think that worked. Right?
Okay, wait, we got to talk. Oh my God, did my
No,
No, I'm still hearing
no?
it.
Oh,
Recording
come
had
on!
nothing to do with
My
it.
music degree is worthless.
Oh, this is awful.
you're still better than me because I just picked up guitars and tried to learn how to play. I never got the degree.
No, that's the better route for sure.
I'll take your word for it.
This is awful. I don't know what to do.
You're still better than me because I just picked up guitars and tried to learn.
It's not bothering me as much as before. It's probably bothering you the most, Courtney.
I wonder if
I don't know if people can hear that or not.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
Oh my
People are like,
God.
what the hell are they talking about?
This is like the most boomer thing.
what?
I don't know if people can hear that or not.
Oh, it's just bothering me. Hello?
No, we're saying
In
it
the
would be
world.
funny if the audience can't hear it.
Oh, yeah. That would be, yeah. All right.
Me
Well,
too.
So
what
they're
I
like,
did,
what are they talking about?
what I did was I just turned off the live stream, but now I can't see like chat comments.
Okay, then
Wait, so did it stop now? Yeah, so it's the YouTube is the problem.
Yeah, it's YouTube. That's the problem. So, but we're still streaming live on YouTube. I just can't now see people's comments. So I guess I'll have to, yeah,
Oh, how weird. Okay.
right? I don't
So-
know.
I was looking on YouTube to see if people could hear the echo. Yeah, they're saying somebody did say they can hear the
They
echo.
can hear the echo.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
don't
can
know.
just,
I'm wondering if
We can
maybe,
just
like,
open a window with the stream. Like, don't sign in or anything. Just have us on mute and just watch the chat. Like, not from
oh,
your
I see what-
account.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm gonna try that. Let's see.
I do not hear the echo right now.
No, because I turned it off. So now what we're gonna try is just watching the stream like separately.
Oh my God, this could be so weird watching ourselves move around.
I'm not joining you on this one. That's all you guys.
I already have it up. I don't hear the echo
Oh, you do?
anymore. Yeah.
So now do you hear the echo?
No.
I don't hear the echo right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hear it. No, they said the echo's gone.
I do.
Might be back on. Someone in the chat said the echo's gone now.
Watching the stream like I
No,
do. So
there it is.
okay. So this
Oh my
so
God,
I
this
think
is
what I
so
have to
weird
do.
watching ourselves move around.
Okay.
I'm not joining you on this one. That's all you guys.
Yeah. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull it up. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to pull this up on my phone, and this way, and I'll put my phone on silent. This way, I can still see comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll do it that way, and then we shouldn't get an echo that way.
No problem.
That's a good idea.
Improvisation. I like it.
Yes.
That's a good
All right.
idea.
That's perfect. That's how we'll do it. Okay. I don't know that that's how you're supposed to do it, but that's how we're going to do it. All right. Well, nobody's hearing an echo now,
Hi,
right?
everyone.
So the echo came back now. Is that what I'm hearing? The echo came back, or is the echo gone?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I don't hear
Someone-
anything
no,
right
someone
now.
just commented that there's an echo still. Still.
I don't
Are they
hear anything
trolling
right
us? Who is commenting this, guys?
I think.
Is it one of our people? Because
It's fed.
Yeah, I think. We're good.
no,
All
our
right,
people
well,
would be the ones saying this.
I'm not hearing an echo anymore, so I think we can can start.
Yeah, no, I don't hear an echo
Finally.
either. Yeah, no, that was probably the feds. I don't know.
All right. Well, how is everyone doing tonight?
Oh, I'm absolutely fantastic. We were talking about squatting and workouts earlier, and I was feeling pretty ballsy. And right now, I'm cutting down. I'm trying to get a little bit leaner, so that way I'm in good shape for my wedding in November. And I hit my max squat for three reps, so I was pretty stoked.
That's amazing. So
Nice.
what was it?
315 for 3.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
What's in November? What did you say?
I'm getting married in November.
Wedding.
Oh, that's so exciting. Oh yeah, getting in shape.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I lost. It's funny if you look at the time from when I first started dating my fiance till now. There's quite a difference. I lost about 70 pounds, and you can also
Damn.
there's that's all like dilatory BS, right? The real big deal is the fact that she bought me this shark right here.
This what?
Oh, what is that?
It's a shark. Can you not see that?
Actually, I do have a hard time seeing from this far away.
I can't believe you can't see that. Yeah, it's a shark.
No, I can. But
Okay.
I didn't see it before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you do.
I had to look twice. I didn't.
But-
now I'm like, duh, obviously. But yeah.
That's how you
Also-
know she's a real one.
because she bought you a shark.
Well, yeah, and I was
The
I was
shark.
shark back there too.
Ah, wow.
There are so many things happening in your background.
I
It's
know.
like constant.
I know.
Of course, I'm just
You're
looking at the
blind.
guitars, honestly.
Yeah, well, there's about 15 of them. There's like 30 hats over there, a shark, a dinosaur, different shows my band played. If I flip that around, you would see the giant flag for the breast cancer benefit I did a couple years ago. But yeah, that's all, neither here nor there.
Wow.
Sorry,
Nice.
a lot going on.
So Kyle, do you have
No, it's cool.
pictures of you from 70 pounds ago?
Yes, I have one I normally put up on Twitter. I don't know if I could do a screen share and if it will work all right. And I don't want to make this stream all about me and my previous fat ass, but
I'm pretty sure you can do
But those people like those befores and afters.
I know.
well,
So impressive.
well, thank you. The reason why I started the podcast and why it took me so long to kind of get started is because initially I did want to do something like years and years and years ago, but I don't want to say my life was like a wreck, but like now where I'm at, I feel like I'm a lot more ready to kind of spread the message and bring the message of liberty and health to people rather than just kind of saying it. I'm more about it now than I was before. So, kind
That's
of
great.
going through all the weight loss and then understanding the things I understand now, I feel like I'm more in a place to share it. And, I lived it. I was miserable for a long period of time. And then, once I figured out how much diet actually plays a role in my overall mental and physical health, I wanted to share that with absolutely everybody. So that's why I'm so passionate about the kind of health stuff.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do screen share now. I've given you permission. So
Okay, let's see if that
Ooh.
works. Okay, so that was me at 250 pounds.
Wow, you're like a different person. Holy
I
crap.
know. That's
Yeah, I don't-
amazing.
It's wild.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a picture of me and my fiance before. No, there's
I'm
not.
judging you for having a Facebook though, but we'll talk about
Oh
that
my God. Yeah, I know.
I'm just
It's
kidding.
absolutely terrible. All right. Yeah, I don't want to go too much through the all the. Okay, there we go. That was when a couple months after we first met. So yeah, that was about
Oh, cute.
March of 2018. I want to say this is actually the first band or the first show I played with a Common Crown, which is my band that I've played in now for 3 or 4 years. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So, but anyways, long story short, that's the main reason why I kind of share this message with so many people, because I was about 23 years old at the time.
Mhm.
And I had poor digestive health, poor mental health. And even when I was like a teenager, I had suicidal thoughts. I never claimed to have depression or anything like that because I was never formally diagnosed. But I went on the crazy carnivore diet. I think, Courtney, when you and I talked, I told you this story, but just to kind of keep it short, I heard about the carnivore diet.
Crazy.
I did it for about 2 years. And then I lost
It's
all that
not
weight.
crazy. I love it.
Well, and then I realized like, this is what feeling good feels like. Like I thought, I was 23 years old and just getting older. So you get old. Things
23,
suck.
you were ancient. I mean,
I
Yeah,
just thought that
you're
was
just getting
part of it.
old.
I mean, you're
Well-
like getting ready to prepare your grave. I mean,
I'm
Yeah,
an auto
Kyle, like,
mechanic,
are you
too.
realizing who's on the podcast with you right now? Take a
I
chill
know.
pill.
I know, but when you work as an auto mechanic, you see all like older guys and people my age even that are just like completely destroyed. I'm like, okay, well, you just feel like shit for the
Yeah.
rest of your life. That's the way it is. But like I said, once I kind of discovered health and figured out my health in that regard, I figured, okay, well, maybe aging isn't this just binary choice if you just die a longer and longer death until you finally end up at a grave, that there's actually ways you can improve your health and feel better. And it's true though. And I don't think
No,
a lot
no,
of
it's
people
very
realize
true.
that. So once again, that's why I'm so passionate about talking about nutrition, health, fitness, resistance training, and getting people into better shape. And it's not like, hey, you got to be you know, 6% body fat and eating chicken, broccoli, and rice every single day. It's let's do something sustainable for you. Let's get you started. Just put one foot in front of the other for a couple days. And then, hey, if you could maybe start doing some push-ups or squats or something. Like, I don't know if you follow Quincy on Twitter. Um, he's incredible, but I mean, he's a heavier set guy. But guess what? Every single day on Twitter, he's posting up videos of him doing squats. He's posted videos of himself doing push-ups. And it's just like, dude, get it. Just keep going. That's all I care about. Yeah, and people like knock them for it. They're like, "Oh, your push-up form isn't perfect. You're not going low enough down on squats."
You saw the guy who was like trolling me about my deadlift, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I didn't see. What did he say?
It's such a pet peeve of mine because I come from, you know, a gymnastics background. So gymnasts are used to having their like the flexion in their spine under load. Like that's what gymnasts do all day, every day, you know? So I coached CrossFit, I do personal training. So, I mean, I'm pretty versed in this stuff. And of course, if I'm working with a beginner in the very beginning, I want them to have the foundation of having solid form. But when you start working on heavier loads and PRs, like every body is different. And you actually look at most powerlifters, people always say like sumo is easier, but actually the record holders are mostly conventional. Mm-hmm. And most of them, you know, round their upper backs when they do deadlifts. Is it dangerous? Do they all end up with like, you know, broken backs and spinal surgery? No, most of them have really, really strong upper backs. And a lot of it has to do with proportions also. Like for me, most of my like max deadlifts are almost like a Romanian deadlift because my hip hinge is so much stronger and my upper back is really strong. My back in general is really strong. I'm an aerial artist and I was a gymnast, you know, so, but it's just such a pet peeve of mine too. Cause I also have scar tissue from heart surgery when I was a year old. So like my shoulders have limited range of motion. You know, the right shoulder is slightly more than the left. You know, they cracked my ribs open to get to my heart when I was a year old. So that obviously created a lot of scar tissue, but neuromuscularly, they work together. You know, it's kind of like, I mean, I only have one eye, but for most people who see bilaterally, like your eyes see, they process together. So like people who have one eye that's much more dominant, a lot of times it will shut off the other eye. So it's very similar with, you know, muscular structure. So the shoulders work together and therefore there's limited range of motion. But that's why I said to the guy, I was kind of like, you know anything about me? Like, you know nothing about my anthropometry, you know nothing about my history, you know, you're looking at literally one lift and you're like, you're doing it all wrong. I'm like, wrong according to who, right? Like, I'm fine. Was I injured? I do think when people round their mid back, that's a huge concern. You know, the mid back, the lower back, like when as a coach, I'm like, no. And if I see beginners rounding their upper back, I'm going to tell them, let's go down and wait. And, you know, but when an advanced lifter, you know, is at the upper end of their range, you know, once you're getting into that, like, you know, 85 to, you know, upwards %, if they know their bodies, then I'm going to trust them to know their body. You know, like I started going up from there. I started to lift the 245 and I got it, you know, a few inches off the ground and I could feel, I was like, this isn't worth it today. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not like I could push it, but I was like, my form's going to be so compensated that it's not worth it. But I know my body well enough to do that. You know, not everybody does, but I just think it's really funny when some random stranger on Twitter is like, you're doing it wrong. You know,
you'll kind of know when you approach a lift if you got it or not.
Yeah.
Can you see me all right? It said my connection was unstable. We still good?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. All right. I just want to make sure. Yeah, when you approach a lift, sometimes you'll know if you got it or don't. And I guarantee you, so I posted on Twitter the video of me doing 405 for 10 reps, and that was a new record for me. I guarantee you by the end of that, I was rounding my back a little bit, but someone commented and said, dude, that's like a recipe for a back injury. I'm like, look, I've been lifting for over 10 years at this point.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and I get it. He's just like trying to be nice, but like, dude, my whole thing is liberty and health, right? Yeah. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of, I wanted to address like when you were talking about how much like diet plays a role in your like mental wellness. I think that's such they intentionally don't want people to know that because then so much of the pharmaceutical industry would be out of business.
Right.
So many
Oh, yeah.
people are on, these psychotropics and these, antidepressants and whatnot, when really, if they took care of their health, through diet, nutrition, lifestyle, as Kyle was saying, it's not necessarily being like, the, what the aesthetic ideal is. It's really about a holistic health picture. And
Yeah.
I think they really don't want people to know that, because that would put them out of business, in a lot of
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah, how many people solve their autoimmune disorders through like nutrition, especially like the stricter diets, like you were saying earlier, carnivore.
Yep.
Even if you don't want to sustain that like forever,
Yeah.
that seems to be like a great baseline for people, especially that they have like gut issues or just even like depression,
Yep.
something about cutting it down to just like beef and like fat
Yeah.
and then like taking it from there, and like I don't know what it is. For me, it's like instant. Like I'm so much better if I just do.
Are you a carnivore?
Yeah, for the most part, I do beef and I do organ supplements. I can't
Okay.
eat organs.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't blame
can
you.
physically, and I do fruit and honey.
Okay.
That's a perfect diet,
I
really.
Yeah.
I follow I always plug Dr. Paul. Oh, you should totally have him on your podcast, Courtney.
Who?
His name is
Paul Saladino.
Dr. Paul Saladino. Yeah. He's Carnivore
Okay.
MD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you his thing on Instagram.
Thank
He's
you.
great. He's extreme. Like I will not
Yeah.
follow every single thing. Like he thinks coffee's bullshit. And while I may disagree, I will also close my eyes on that one. Although I'm currently not on caffeine, so I don't know how I'm surviving. But in general, yes, I just do so much better. All of a sudden it's like no bloating, no like exhaustion. You're just like thriving. It's crazy. And you're not like depending on anything. And it's weird because I mean, I do think very similar to what you were saying about form and just like knowing the person's body before
Yeah.
you're going to just tell people what to do, because we're all so different. I think that also goes for diet.
I
Like
agree.
I have friends that they do these spinach shakes and they feel amazing. If I do a spinach shake, I feel like garbage. Like I want to die. I can't do it. My
Wow.
body hates it. So I'm not going to yell at my
Really?
friend, stop doing spinach shakes if, they're fit, they look great, they feel great. I mean, who am I to tell them to stop doing that if it's, they're not like out eating McDonald's, right? So I'm not going to yell at them to stop eating spinach. But there is something, I don't know what it is. Some people who have like autoimmune disorders or a sensitive gut or something, they can't do vegetables. That's me.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. It like kills me.
I have a couple of theories, and these are just theories. I'm gonna like just put a disclaimer out there. It's just a theory, but it's not medical advice, not a diagnosis or anything. But I do have a couple of theories on it, and I know, right? I have to do that.
I
right?
love it.
But a few theories. But one is people who right today, like the chemicals that are in things because of the pesticides and because of the fertilizer, and so little nutrient value is in a lot of the plants today compared to what it used to be. So now you're getting all the toxicity without the nutrients. And I think that people who have a compromised gut issues, either like leaky gut or their microbiome is imbalanced, I think that they have a hard time digesting fiber in general. And when you eat ruminant animals, they have such incredible digestive systems. Like cows have 2 stomachs. And so they're extracting all those nutrients that we would need already for us.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that processing. I don't think that, for, like you said, it's so individual for people. There are a lot of people who I think, vegetables are very, very beneficial and possibly even essential for them. But I think that for people who are having difficulty with their detox pathways, there's just so many chemicals in a lot of the plants today, unfortunately.
Yale, do you have anything
And
to add? Go ahead first, because I got a ton of thoughts on this.
Yeah, from what I understand, and I'm not going to go into details too much because this is not my forte, but from what I understand, besides what we're probably adding to the plants, there are also defense chemicals in the plants themselves and in the roots and everything like that. So basically, the idea is that the plants just don't want to be eaten, and we're kind of missing the memo. So I find that very interesting.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's typically the way that Paul frames it. And I do really like Paul Saldino a lot. Sometimes he extrapolates a lot with research, and he kind of, takes abstracts and runs with it. And not to say that he never says anything that's true, because a lot of the stuff he says is true, but just sometimes he plays fast and loose with stuff, and kind of cherry picks research. And I'm not knocking him, because I've tried to get him on the podcast plenty of times, because he started speaking out against COVID and stuff like that, and he was going over graphs. I mean, dude's incredible, and he's one of the people I listen to a lot when it came to kind of first starting carnivore about 3 years ago, and now I've been off it for about a year. But he I think it's kind of good to have the carnivore diet kind of out there and about, because you hear this fiber so much. And I remember when I was heavier, I had severe gas and bloating. And I remember doing carnivore for a weekend. And that's kind of what sold me on it. And I just remember no bloat. And I would get this just severe churning pain in my gut. And I remember just thinking, man, this really sucks. And then I rarely ever get it. Like, I know if I eat mushrooms, sometimes it kind of messes with my stomach a little bit, so I typically avoid those. There's certain kinds of fibers that don't sit well with me, but I would have never known that had I not cut out all those foods and then just stuck to carnivore for a little bit. And now it seems like whatever gut issues I may have had when I was heavier at one point, they're gone now, because I certainly don't have digestive issues when I eat the things that I do. So I listen to a lot of like the strictly science-based guys and the flexible diet guys, Lane Norton, Mike Israetel, and they're big proponents of carbohydrates and having a lot of carbohydrates in your diet. And I'm not against that at all, but I kind of think that they don't want to give the devil its due, so to speak, and say like, hey, maybe there are more people than we're even aware of that have digestive issues that may see great benefit from eliminating all fiber for a brief period of time. And there's a lot of research to support fiber being beneficial, and I believe it is for the most part, but that's not to say you should always have it all the time, no matter what, because once again, what's your individual story? And yeah, once again, you can pull together all sorts of cohorts and meta-analyses, but like you were saying earlier, our foods are so different. And even like when it comes to grass-fed versus grass-finished cows, the grains that cows are eating are sprayed with glyphosate and different pesticides, and that actually bioaccumulates in their fats. Now, it doesn't seem like that transfers over to humans by the time the meat's processed, but that's not to say that we don't know if maybe there's something else going on that we just don't know. I always tend to go for grass-fed, grass-finished meat just because I've grown accustomed to the taste. But, there's a lot of different factors at play here that a lot of people don't want to consider. And the human body is very, very resilient, but also each individual is going to be different along the way and what they're going to be able to tolerate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like some people are probably like more like you, where they can do carnivore and then, add stuff, and then you've kind of like healed your thing. And I think my assumption is that Paul is like this way because he might just be able to eat this diet and that's it. I think maybe for him, anything that he adds back in, and I kind of relate to that. It always goes back to like, nope, feeling like crap. Like it just, right. It's like my body just doesn't want it. It just doesn't want it. And I've always been like that with vegetables ever since I was like younger. My body just like did not like it. I remember like, what was it? Like 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, when like, you remember it was like peak green smoothie time. It was like,
oh
trendy.
My God.
It started.
Celery juice fasts.
It was like the peak of this stuff, right? Like I don't know. I just remember it because I was like in the fitness industry and like everybody's like on this stuff and all my friends are like loving it. And I'm drinking this thing and my stomach just like ripped into shreds. I was like, oh my God, I cannot handle that stuff. Nope.
Funny. That's so interesting. I'm one of those people who just not do well on like low carbs. Like that does not work for me at all. I end up like hitting walls. My energy is in the gutter. Like I experience all sorts of very negative effects from it. And it's funny because I recently had just like a blood workup, and my doctor was like, your A1C is really low. Like He said that he wasn't concerned, but he said, if you ever go to people that it's outside the standard deviation of normal, like some doctors will say that is a concern. He's like, I don't actually think it ever is a concern. He said the only thing is I would just advise do never do a low carb diet. And I was like, oh no, they don't work for me. And he's like, yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's very individual, and for me, fasting and low carb actually worked really well. So I may have told you this before, Courtney, but the one of the craziest things I ever did, and this is just how retarded I could be, but my fiance and I went on a vacation to Ocean City, and I just let loose when I was carnivore. And part of the reason why I'm not carnivore anymore is because I found out that like I actually have a decent metabolism, I'd like to think, and I have to eat a lot of freaking food to be at like maintenance calories. And when you do a carnivore diet, it's really hard to get 3,000 calories strictly from protein and fat, right? So I just like gorged for a week, and I gained like 20 or 25 pounds. I did a 5-day fast. I ran 12 miles throughout the week. I lifted every single day. And I remember it was a Saturday morning when I was going to finish my fast, and I ran 5.5 miles on a trail at 5 o'clock in the morning and came home, and I still wasn't hungry. But I actually broke my fast with a piece of liver, and that was like the most awful thing in the world. But I found out electrolytes.
Oh, now you're cut off.
Now you press.
And am I good?
Yeah, now you're good.
Okay, cool. The electrolytes were electrolytes of fasting really kind of squared up low carb or carnivore for me, because I didn't even do low carb. I just went straight to carnivore. And that really kind of enabled me and gave me the most amount of energy when I was doing that. But now my diet still by volume of calories is low carb, because I'm 60% fat, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then 40% carbohydrates. So still by like volume of calories, I'm technically low carb, but I don't think anybody would consider 170 grams of carbohydrates a day low carb by any definition.
Oh yeah, no, I do.
Really?
Yeah. It would depend on the breakdown. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it also depends how active you are, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, if you're just like sitting around. Yeah, exactly. Like you need it. Otherwise, you're just like, forget it. It's like that's the worst, when you're like super low carb, and then you try to like, do whatever workout you decide to do, and you're just like wiped. Especially if it's like, I find, especially if it's like a cardio, try to go like boxing or something, forget it. You're just like, I'm gonna pass out. Awesome. Like you're just like not okay.
When I first started CrossFit, in CrossFit, like paleo is like the thing. And so you can do paleo without being low carb, but most people end up being low carb with paleo unless they consciously try not to, So and I just remember it was like I started both kind of at the same time, and I would just hit walls. It would just feel like I couldn't take another step.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Like,
you know what? Honestly, I can't say I ever really felt like I hit a wall.
Yeah, I did.
I definitely noticed with carbohydrates, my strength and fullness in my muscles is definitely a lot better. I was still plenty strong on carnivore, but I mean, my deadlift has literally gone up about 50 or 60 pounds over the last year. And all my lifts are way up, and I'm at a way lighter weight. And the nicer thing is that I don't feel the need to binge like I used to on carnivore. And I felt like a kid with dynamite. And I tell people this all the time when I was carnivore, because I would tell everybody, hey, this is so great, you should definitely do this. But what I never understood is like, okay, well, it'd be good for a week or two, and then it's like face down and cheesecake and ice cream. And then I'd be like, oh, well, there goes my progress for the week. We're going to do it again this week. And it's just constantly over and over again. But once again, that was just because your brain and your body's so much smarter than any of us give it credit for. It's going to find a way to make sure you survive and do well, because our hindbrains don't realize that, like, hey, chocolate cake and all this stuff, this is available everywhere. We don't understand it. Like the lizard brain, it doesn't care. It's like, okay, those are calories. You eat that, you're going to survive, right? Your body doesn't want you to be super lean. So when you starve yourself, and I was eating 1,800 calories a day at I'm 6 feet tall, very active. That wasn't enough to sustain me. So, the lizard brain says, all right, well, let's gorge on some junk food, because that's easily very hyperpalatable calories, and you're going to be full. You're going to gain some body fat. You're going to be good. But, that's why I hesitate from telling people, oh, you should definitely go on carnivore. Like, all right, this is something you can do, but just be aware of the drawbacks. And for me personally, it wasn't sustainable. For somebody else, it could very well be sustainable, but just for me, it didn't work out in the long run. No matter how much I wanted it to, it just didn't. And I feel much better doing what I do now.
Yeah, I always tell people that like people want, often when I'm working with clients, they always want like, a cookie cutter kind of plan. And I'm like, we're going to work with you and build habits, build a lifestyle, build sustainability. But I'm really curious, both of you have tried carnivore, and have you heard like Michaela Peterson talk about how like Ted wouldn't let her post her talk? Because so she said like carnivore basically, I'm sure you're both familiar, cured her or put her autoimmune condition in remission. And she has the same experience with you. Yeah. Like she says that she will try coming out of it and, have like plants or something or fruit, and, it flares up her autoimmune issues. So, she really feels she has to be very, very strict with it, but she did a TED talk on it, and they wouldn't let her post it. So she posted it herself on her YouTube, but I was like, wow.
I've been actually meaning to watch it. But it is weird. Like the whole like war on like meat is like a strange, like there's definitely something to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you look back, like the, ancient texts were talking about the whole vegan push. Like Lord Birkenhead talked about it over 100 years ago in his predictions, like Bertrand Russell talked about it. And actually Plato actually talked about how meat should only be reserved for athletes and soldiers, that the masses should not be partaking in meat consumption.
So are you guys familiar with the gut-brain hypothesis at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have more neurotransmitters.
I don't think, well,
oh, sorry, go on.
Well, yeah, go ahead. If you tell me,
I was just
will.
going to say, like we have more neurotransmitters in our gut than we do in our brain, typically. Like we have more
interesting.
serotonin
Okay.
in our gut, and it typically works as a feedback loop with a lot of the neurotransmitters. Not all of them, but a lot of them work as a feedback loop.
Yeah. Okay. Well, generally, where I was going with this is that back before we were Homo sapiens, right? We had a lot more guts. So like if you look at primates, different animals, they have very, very big distended guts, right? Because they need to use their stomachs to ferment different, vegetables, grass, whatever, to get the proteins, to get the fats from it. So like when you look at a gorilla, they're able to eat so much grass and plant matter because their stomach ferments it, or when it's in their mouth, also the amylase genes also help trigger some of the processes to, once again, get a little bit more nutrients out of their nutrition. So the theory is that we traded gut for brain, right? And if I remember correctly, Dr. Nadir Ali, he's a guy who does like a lot of talks on like cholesterol and different forms of cholesterol. The dude does like super deep dives on it, stuff that I just like, I have like very, very minor knowledge of. But basically, once again, the hypothesis is that for us to evolve after we ate meat, we no longer needed all the gut to digest the plant matter and different foods that we could derive nutrients from. So because we learned to cook and because we learned to eat meat, we needed less gut. So we got more brain instead. That's why we learned to stand upright. And if you look around our evolution, Paul Saldana talked about this in his book. When we first started to stand upright, we also learned how to make tools to throw and to carve stuff. And that's also around the same time that we started eating meat. So that would kind of suggest that as we ate meat, that actually kind of made us more and more human, right? So we had more bioavailable proteins because we know that proteins, specifically eggs, meats, animal products, have the best rating amongst the indispensable digestible indispensable amino acid scores. So the most bioavailable proteins. Once we learned to start cooking those, once again, we became Homo sapiens. So it's really funny that they now have this war on meat because you're supposed to be under the impression that meat's bad for the environment, that cows are destroying the environment, which nothing could be further from the truth. If you guys are familiar with Rob Wolf, he wrote the book Sacred Cow, and I've had him on my show twice, and surprisingly never actually talked about that. Yeah, he's awesome. But what they found is actually a plant-based burger is just as bad for the environment as a grass-fed, grass-finished burger is good for the environment. So when they tell you, I mean, it's like the biggest gaslighting scheme ever to tell people that it's better for the world to go vegan. No, everybody should be pushing for regenerative agriculture. So when I see a certain libertarian that starts with an A and last name starts with a K who's telling everybody to go vegan, it's ridiculous because once again, you know who I'm talking about. This is what theoretically made us human. And if you look at all the, most shredded bodybuilders and the strongest people on the face of the earth, and actually, if you look at meta-analysis as well, people who have the highest meat consumption and the highest fruit and vegetable consumption actually live the longest. Yeah. So these blue zones are BS.
I would say there are exceptions to that, though.
Sure.
Like I would say in India, there's some really long living, people.
India also has the shortest lifespan, though, or I might be thinking about another country. I'm pretty sure it's India, though, has the highest vegetarian population. They actually have the lowest life expectancy. Now, there may be certain areas in India, but if you, I Googled it a while back when I was real deep into carnivore, but in India, they have the lowest life expectancy, but the highest vegan population. Now, obviously, there's a lot more factors.
High vegan population. I didn't realize they have low life expectancy. I thought they were actually higher on the life expectancy.
If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it is India has the highest vegan population, and they have the lowest life expectancy.
That part I know, but I didn't realize they have. Interesting. I'll have to look that up again because I thought there were like some of the longest live. Maybe they're maybe the outliers. They have maybe their outliers live longer. I don't know.
Typically people point to like the blue zones where those people typically were vegans or vegetarians. But the thing that they kind of leave out is that they want to beat meat eaters and people who aren't vegan over the head with that narrative. But the thing is that they also have very, very like tight knit communities and they have very, very good family lives. They don't smoke. So there's there's a really strong sense of community. And what you actually, or what a lot of other studies find is that loneliness tends to actually kill people too. Like,
what did they do the past 2 years? They atomized everyone, right?
Right.
Exactly.
We have a health crisis, so you should not be around other people, and we should be completely isolated, and that is somehow going to be beneficial for our health. Absolutely.
Like they just released that article. It was like, a healthy lifestyle might help. Like, did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
I forgot what it said. It's just, I just can't.
Yeah, it was basically like the antidote for, some ailments that you might have that are very prevalent in this current age. Some of them begin with a C. But, they can be mitigated with, lifestyle choices like a healthy diet and exercise.
Breaking news.
It's amazing. It takes them 2 years to finally come out and admit that you got 2 years of make sure you wear your mask, get social distance outside, and make sure you're vaccinated and boosted. And now all of a sudden, they're starting to tell you that it's okay to go around other people and do stuff that we've done for the last million years. It's so funny to me because we've survived famine and communism in plenty of other countries, genocides left and right. And we're supposed to believe that COVID was going to be the be all end all. It's like, dude, this is so cold.
I had COVID so that we don't get kicked off, but yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
The C word.
Yeah, the C word. Well, I had the C word about 2 years
There's another
ago.
C word. Yeah.
I had the C word about 2 years ago, and it was kind of funny because nobody even knew I had it.
You did?
And, yeah. Oh, it was like the most mild.
Did you know you had it?
Oh,
nice.
I felt a little under the weather for a couple days, and I'm like, okay, I probably just didn't sleep well, so whatever. And then I woke up on Monday and I had pork belly bacon with this kind of pepper on it and eggs, and I drank dark roast coffee in the morning, so it's very strong. So I took a sip of it. I'm like, well, I can't really taste it. That's kind of weird, but whatever.
We lost him again.
Wait, froze.
You're frozen.
Suspense.
Yeah.
I hear this.
So I take a shower and not yet.
You're
wait,
back.
wait.
Oh my God.
Have to back up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Okay. You didn't taste your coffee. Go.
I'm so sorry. I hate my internet. This has been doing it to me the last couple of weeks. But so I took a sip of my coffee and I couldn't taste it. So I just kind of dusted it off.
You had the loss of taste and
yeah.
Did you lose your sense of smell too?
I'll get there. So
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So I had pork belly bacon, steak, and eggs for breakfast. And the pork belly bacon has like a very specific taste and it's so freaking good. So I remember taking a bite of it. I'm like, I can feel the texture and like, I can imagine how it's supposed to taste, but I don't taste it. So I finished my breakfast.
So gross.
Yeah.
You finished it?
Yeah. Well, what am I going to do? Just not eat it? I made all this food. So of course I'm going to eat it. So, I finished and I sat up on the bed and, the dogs came in the room with me. My fiance was getting ready. So I'm like, I think I got COVID. And she's like, really? It's like, yeah, I can't taste anything. Oh, I got the C word, the beer flu.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm terrible at this. So I got the C word and she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I can't taste anything. And I'm like, look, we got a big show this weekend out in Columbus. And like, if I don't want to take a week off of work. Let's just, and guess what? Nobody got sick. So I had a Yukon and it had a water leak, right? I mean, this thing smelled horrendous. So I had all the carpet out of this brand new Denali Yukon and it just smelled like mold in the worst way possible. So the carpet came in for it that week and I was going to install it. But what we do when vehicles have water leaks is that we use a clear coat spray on the floor of the vehicle, like underneath all the carpet, because it helps cement that mold smell down into the metal because it actually gets caught in the metal. But if you clear coat over it, once again, you're going to cement that smell down in there. So it was the middle of winter because it was like late March. So it was really freaking cold. So all the doors are shut in the shop that I work at. And I have this Yukon in with all the doors open and I have this clear coat and I can't smell anything at this point. So I'm spraying it all throughout this Yukon, right? And it's starting to like fog up part of the shop and people start like one by one coming out from their stalls and they're looking at me and I couldn't smell it, so I didn't know. So I'm just spraying it. And then finally, like literally everybody in the shop's out there looking. And the one lead tech junior comes up to me, he's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you doing? So I pulled it outside and I didn't want any of them to know that I had COVID because I'm like, look, I can't afford a week off of work. If I get thrown out of work, then we're going to have to cancel our show. Like, just keep it on wraps. And once again, nobody got sick. But yeah, so I went outside and that was kind of how I figured out I didn't have smell.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was
terrible.
my.
So you were breathing all that in.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually I like started choking up a little bit when I was outside because I left the doors closed. Oh, so the funniest part about this story is that the customer came to get it, right? And this is when everybody was dying from the C word, right? Even though some of them weren't actually dying from the C word. This lady comes to pick it up and she gets out of her car and says, it smells like chemicals so bad in there. It's not going to say I died from the C word on my death certificate. It's going to say I died from Yukon. I could not stop laughing after I heard that story.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was my experience with the C word.
Wow. Did you
That's
have
crazy.
It? Yeah. Did you have it? No.
Wow. Have you?
I have. Think was it? Yeah. I had the second wave though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was pretty sick. I mean,
really?
It was like being sick with anything. I mean, it felt a little bit different. Like I had a weird headache on the right side of my head. That was like the most disconcerting thing for me, honestly. I kept messaging my doctor.
I hear headaches are a thing. Like a thing. Yes. Yeah.
And I was really worried about it. I'm like, am I gonna have like, cognitive damage? Like I was really freaked out about it. It's like because I had read that could happen, and I kept messaging my doctor, and she's like, it can. She was very kind of like, real, but she was like, yeah, it could. She's like, I really don't think it's going to though. I think you're fine, But I was at
forget what you can take. Like you can take. There's something that you can take. It's either. I think it's Zyrtec and Pepsid. It's both both are like, right. They like nerve blockers or something. And that can like help with like the possible, I don't know, cognitive issues with it. I don't know.
Oh,
there's like so many things. That's what I heard.
I know
my family has it right now in New York, actually.
Oh.
God bless her.
And they came back from Florida. And so interestingly enough, so my mom's like doing the worst, but they're not how do I censor this? They did not take the shot. There you go.
No juice.
Yeah, there you go. But interestingly enough, they were all really sick, like maybe a month ago, like really bad. So I was convinced, and they were convinced that that was it.
Right.
But I guess it wasn't. It was, I guess it was just like a really, really bad, like something that went around. But I talked to my dad. I was like, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "Yo, what I had last month was like 10 times worse than like what this is." And this is confirmed, like the thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's so interesting how things hit people differently.
Well, but
right?
even the
like
confirming isn't necessarily accurate, right? So
Yeah.
it's true, but I think the thing that confirms it is that my sister like can't smell or taste anything. I think that's a very specific.
yeah.
I think that's what makes it different.
Although I
than
have
everything
to say,
else.
like people are so focused on that right now.
Mhm.
But people do lose like sensation in terms of their smell and taste when they have like a general cold.
I know. I just hear it so different. I have from like that's what I say too.
It didn't
but
happen to
everybody
me,
that
so I
I've
don't know.
spoken to. Oh, interesting. Everybody that I've spoken to about that, like, and I said that they say it's like completely different. Like you can stick your head in the garbage can and you like won't smell a thing.
Yes.
Like it's not even like a tiny bit.
Oh wow.
That's where it's different. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That has to be weird.
when my fiance got
Yes.
it after I did, she just lost her smell for like a month. That was it. And she said her smell's still kind of like screwy, even about a year and a half later, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Like for the first, I want to say probably 6 months after she lost her smell, it was still, screwy with her. But for me, it was literally just like a week. And I was also taking vitamin D, alpha lipoic acid. I didn't take any of the, the big bad stuff that, you can't even say. And I used a glutathione nasal spray because it's supposed to help work the olfactory nerves, and it helps get your smell back to you a little bit faster. So I went absolutely crazy.
They say ginger too is supposed to be good for stimulating the olfactory sense.
No,
yeah, I
I
heard to like smell like peppermint oil.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
That stuff is strong. If you ever smell it like too close accidentally, oh my God. That is like, I can imagine that working.
Yeah, when I was using that glutathione nasal spray, I like couldn't feel it. And to Yale's point, it is like nothing you've ever had before. And it wasn't like bad for me at all. Like I said, I just didn't have my smell or taste. It was more annoying than anything. But like you could not smell anything. And Sarah, my fiance, before she lost her smell, she used the glutathione nasal spray and she was like, holy crap. And for me, like, it didn't even feel like I was doing anything. But for her, she's like, oh my God, this is so like crazy. And now like I've done it a few times since just to like see what it was. And it does clear out your sinuses.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really strong. And I'm like, man, when I had COVID, I just couldn't even tell.
Whoa, that's crazy. I have like a cabinet of like things. Like I'm just like a crazy person with like vitamins and stuff. I'm like a pharmacy. What do you want? Come over. What do you want? Yeah, because I don't like depending on anyone for anything,
No.
Yeah. Especially, when it was, the whole like pharmacy, like even if you get a doctor that would fill certain things, like the pharmacists like wouldn't do it, just like crazy stuff. And I get very like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So I can imagine it was really crazy there.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And I was in Queens, which it was like the epicenter of the epicenter.
Right.
Good times. Yeah, they did a great job like scaring the shit out of us. It like was not cool. Yeah. So with that, it was I just make sure like the odds are obviously that I'm fine, my boyfriend's fine, whatever, but I like to have like emergency shit. That's how I, and I want to be like in charge of that. Like I don't want my emergency to be like, this is the doctor I call and hopefully he gives me what I need, and this is the pharmacy I'm going to call and hopefully they fill this prescription. Like no.
I think a lot of people are starting to kind of adapt that mindset in general. I mean, with all the food shortages that are finally being talked about, and I mean, they were banning supplements like 2 years ago already.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to adopt that mindset of like stocking up, and which is good. People should, because the more autonomy that we can take, then the less control they have. So
Well, this kind of
I
tailored
think
on.
that's
Go.
yeah.
No, you'll
Yeah,
go
go
ahead
ahead.
first. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like I think that's the positive part in all this chaos is you kind of see people like take on responsibility and kind of be like more interested in their own health, both obviously with like, nutrition and fitness. Those are like, you see so many people getting into that, whether it's losing the last like 10-15 pounds or losing like 100 pounds, right? You're just seeing people being like, okay, it's time. Like, we're spoiled, we can do whatever we want. And you kind of, you take things for granted, you take your body for granted. And then you're kind of like, all right, like, let me take responsibility for myself. Let me not rely on like on the science or like, our healthcare system. And so it's kind of nice because people are like discovering, it's like a lot of self-discovery, which is really cool, I think. So I'm enjoying that movement. Maybe I'm just following the right people, but it's nice to see that,
I definitely think that's a silver lining of people starting to take more personal responsibility, because I think they're starting to realize that we've been sold this lie that, these people can and will and want to take care of us. They want to control us. That's not quite the same thing.
Well,
No, not
so
exactly.
this tailors on to the point, and something that I just discovered recently. But when you think about food, you can think about this in ways of economics, right? So the cheaper the three macronutrients to make and to put out are fat and carbohydrates, right? Protein is the most expensive. So
We lost him again.
To be continued.
So I do.
Oh, there we go. Wait, no.
We good?
Hold on.
Yeah. It
So
threw me.
protein's the most expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate my internet so much. I'm gonna like strangle the next Comcast person I see. I swear to God. So
he's kidding, Feds. He's kidding.
I'm kidding. But what I started noticing with some of the protein bars I was buying is that they're actually starting to reduce the amount of protein they put in all the protein bars. And what's really bad about this is actually it takes about 3 grams of leucine to trigger muscle protein synthesis. So that 3 grams of leucine is typically reached around 20 grams of protein. But a lot of these protein bars now no longer have 20 grams because it's economically no longer feasible to put 20 grams of protein in protein bars, right?
Sorry to interrupt. Wait, protein bars are no longer have 20 grams of protein? Wait, what?
A lot of them do not. If you start picking up some of them at the store, you'll start to see a lot of them don't have 20 grams of protein anymore. And this is because, boil it down to economics. What are all the side dishes? You can get fries, which are cooked in oil, and they're from potatoes, which are very, very cheap, right? Carbohydrates and fats.
Yeah,
right?
and they're usually seed oils, like canola oil.
Exactly.
World War II artillery grease and not edible food.
So when you think,
Kyle, you probably use that at work for the cars.
Yeah,
exactly.
Honestly, yeah, you could take the oil right out of the Escalades and put that in the fryer to fry your fries.
Right.
But it's purely economic when it comes down to food. And so
I disagree with that, but continue your statement and I'll tell you why I disagree with that. It's purely
okay. Yeah, well, I shouldn't say purely economic, but it's largely economic because once again, it's so cheap to manufacture out highly processed carbohydrates and highly processed fats. They're so easy to overconsume, which is why everybody's so fat and lazy now. So because protein's the most expensive, and that's part of the other thing is that that's why meat prices are going up so much, because once again, meat, eggs, animal foods are very, very high in protein. They're very satiating. So if you don't have people satiated, then people just get fat. They're going to keep eating. So I've kind of phrased this in a way and tell people like, look, the Federal Reserve and the inflation that you're experiencing is a form of stolen purchasing power that's now going to continue to make you fat, because now it's no longer feasible for food manufacturers to make higher protein content foods that keep you more satiated and allow you to build lean mass, which allows you to be, live a life with a longer health span rather than just a longer lifespan, right? Because your grip strength correlates with mortality. There's tons of data on how overall strength correlates with mortality.
Is like a predictor of lifespan.
Very, very strong predictor too. When when they're stealing your purchasing power and they're making it so difficult to get, highly bioavailable proteins, this is affecting your health. This is an assault on your health. Inflation is an attack on your health.
Sure.
And I don't think people realize that. And it just kind of clicked to me, like I said, about a week or two ago when I started picking up some of my protein bars. I'm like, it's only got like 16 grams of protein. They had 5 more grams. This is no longer sufficient to, trigger muscle protein synthesis. So you have to eat more calories to get the same effect from the same foods.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and really, really scary. But the other side of it is not just economic. It's that the things. I mean, they can do it with protein, but not as efficiently. They can't do the same kind of genetic modification, the insertion of chemicals, and the same types of poisoning that they do in other, because they have to affect the animals. And the reality is that, yes, well, it's better to eat, it's more humane as well. It's better for the animal for it to be, a farm raised, grass fed, grass finished, that type of thing. But even if it's not, the animals are pretty resilient. And so you're better off eating, even not grass fed animals than you are chemicals. And
so those cows are still very well taken care of throughout their life. They spend, if I remember correctly, it's like 70 to 80% of their life on pasture, and they spend the last 10 to 20% of their life in, in feedlots, which I think we all agree isn't good. But the picture that's painted by a lot of like vegan media is that they're like beating the hell out of these cows. Does that happen? Yes. But the way that these cows die typically is a little bolt to the brain, and they're dead within seconds. So in nature, these animals are eaten organ first, as in they're torn apart while they're still alive. So it's pretty ugly. Versus a bolt to the brain, you're still killing an animal, but okay, well, what's more humane, getting eaten by organs first, or a bolt to the brain, and then you now supply somebody for food for a year if they were to buy that whole cow?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
think that's a.
Are we gonna? Yeah.
No, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was.
And then we can move on. But I was just going to say that I think that that's a huge part, because it's much more difficult to do it with animals than it is to do with the crops and with all these packaged processed foods. They can, insert a lot of toxins and poisons and, endocrine disrupting type of materials, and they're doing that. So, yeah.
And then label them as like healthy by American Heart Association.
Yeah.
Well, and now GMO is called biofortified. So it's no longer GMO, biofortified, which just sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Well, I think when Courtney had me on, we also talked about this, but just to reiterate it, because this is so important. YouTube in 2020 said that they would remove any content that disagrees with the World Health Organization, right? Yeah. And the World Health Organization classified processed meat as a class 1 carcinogen and non-processed meat as a class 2 carcinogen. So if you were to say essentially that it's okay to eat a steak, then you're kind of going against the World Health Organization on their recommendations on diet. And it's pretty obvious that red meat is not bad for you. Now, if all you're eating is just like beef suet, it's probably not good for you. But once again, that's the kind of slippery slope that you kind of get into when you allow these agencies.
The studies that the Harvard studies where they paid the scientists to demonize fats and animal consumption, and they were trying to hide the the detriments of sugar. That's essentially what it was about.
Yep.
And they came out with it. I mean, if they admitted it, that they were paying them to do this. Yeah.
And I think now this is like I tweeted this like a while ago. I think that it resonated with a lot of people. I think we're watching like the veganism movement. I think it's like the new like sugar industry movement.
Yeah, I
especially
agree.
like
I saw that tweet. I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Especially the processed stuff, right? Like you
Mhm.
said, it's a great way for them to just like make you eat garbage and convince you that it's like amazing and like good for you. It's just like when you could like, I mean, go to the grocery store, it's like Pop-Tarts, it's like whole wheat, and then like all these like weird like health stamps. You're like, what? This is like pure garbage.
Which is, I think this is probably a good segue to the topic that, I posted, because so we're talking about these NGOs. Essentially, that's like what the WHO is. It's an NGO, non-governmental organization. So they have tremendous control. So you guys were talking about, you were joking, saying you're going to turn me into an anarchist, and right. and I'm not so sure that, I do believe in local government. I'm just going to say that I'll probably never, really get on board with eradicating the local governments, but federal government, I don't know that I'm so far off, to be honest. But the problem is that we have all these NGOs, and that's their plan. Their plan really is to absolve these, these governments anyway. They don't want nation states. And that's why and we're really seeing it right now. These NGOs have so much power and so much control and quote unquote authority over, what people can and can't do, and what is, what is deemed that should be followed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go ahead first. I got a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm going to let you go first.
I don't know if mine is like a direct thing, because this is more like in regards to Facebook specifically, which it just made me think about like non-government, like giant organizations. Yeah. Did you watch the 2000 Mules movie yet?
I did. I watched it today. It was
fantastic. You did?
I thought. Yeah. In preparation.
So I thought I thought that the I know I shouldn't be surprised, but somehow, I don't know, I always am, like that Mark Zuckerberg and his wife like funded all these, like, what was it? I forgot like how many millions of dollars, but they funded like all these
400 million.
How much was it?
I think that was it.
Yeah. just a few. They funded all these like voting these voting drop boxes.
Yes.
Just to kind of like make it easier, for people to vote. How did it go from like this freaking guy who made like a little social media app in college to him like legitimately, like, I don't, obviously not single-handedly, but him and like a handful of people kind of swayed this whole country. I mean, that's mind-boggling. Like the level of power is crazy. Like, who is that guy?
Well,
I don't know.
So I have a lot to say on that. So people always talk about like these, social media companies as being private companies. Like there was a lot of talk, with the right.
It's a private company, bro.
That is kind of how I respond to that.
Yeah, exactly.
With Facebook in specifically, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Leader Inc. Leader Technologies lawsuit. Michael McKibben.
No.
So, all right. So we'll start with this. So there was something called LifeLog, and LifeLog was just what it sounds like, basically a record on everybody. And it was a CIA kind of a log, and they deemed it unconstitutional as a violation of the Fourth Amendment, right to privacy.
That never stopped them before, though.
Well,
correct.
But it was deemed unconstitutional. And so they had to shut it down on February 4th in 2004.
Okay.
And guess what day Facebook went off? February 4th, 2004. They didn't even, people usually guess the next day, but they didn't even wait 24 hours. They just put Facebook up right away. So I don't know if you're familiar with like The Social Network, the movie. Yeah, right. So there's the whole story about the Winklevoss and how, Zuckerberg stole it from the Winklevoss. Yeah. And so the Winklevoss actually played like a really small role, and they had a very small settlement suit. But Leader Technologies still has an ongoing open suit. And So it's essentially Michael McKibben's son who had access through the emails, and the claim is that they were hacked, and that Zuckerberg is essentially an asset, and this is not a private company at all. Yeah. And
Wow.
that seems to make a lot of sense. I mean, we know that these that they are all tied, that the government has infiltrated. We know that because we see like we've seen it even in small pockets, like Dr. Shiba talked about it when he ran in Massachusetts. How Twitter was involved in his race, and that was a blatant violation. If it's private company, you can't do that. The government company can't do that either, but yeah, exactly. So, but the government, they're definitely not the separation that people would like to think, but particularly with Zuckerberg, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So,
Wow.
yeah, Clint from Liberty Lockdown has a Judge Napolitano on his show. I think it's every Thursday now, and he's freaking awesome. But Judge Napolitano was talking about how some of these companies actually are to the point where they're so in bed with the government that they actually have to figure out whether or not the Constitution applies to them at certain points. Yeah. And it clearly, in these situations where you have the government, reaching their hand in all these social media companies and them telling them you're not allowed to post this, you're censoring literal public figures. At a certain point, once again, it's no longer a public, or it's no longer a private company. When they have access to all, literally 1 billion people have Facebook on their phone, right? If you look at Google Marketplace or whatever, it says 1 billion people. That is, an eighth of the planet's population has, Facebook on this freaking thing right here. That's insanity. So once again, is it still a private company? I personally don't think so. If you guys have any more thoughts, I'm going to kind of try to pull the string on anarchism, but I want to make sure you guys are good, because this may be a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Bring it on.
So when it comes
to say, we'll go through, there's some comments in the chat, but we'll go through that after. We'll get to the end.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to these NGOs and the global empire and, let's say Twitter, Facebook, and all that, none of these exist outside of government, right? Because we have the empire, because we have the Federal Reserve, which was drafted, put into place in 1912, which the dollar has lost, 98% of its purchasing power since its inception. And then, all the other banks and countries all over the world are doing a similar thing. It really comes down to the monetary policy that allows these people to do what they do, right? Because the petrodollar, all of the gas exchanges throughout the world have to be done through the petrodollar, and that's what helps maintain the US's status as reserve currency. So really, to fix a lot of the problems, you have to go back to the monetary policy. Now, where this kind of relates to anarchism.
And you're right to bring up the Federal Reserve, because essentially the world is their currency is dependent upon our debt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, once again, we basically send everybody debt, and then they send us stuff. And then, that debt kind of moves gas and, all the different moving parts of an economy. In a more free market scenario, you would have competing currencies. You would, the Constitution was written, and they said that only gold and silver were legal tender. Yeah. And now, now you even start to see cryptocurrencies. I'm not really that big on cryptocurrencies. I think a lot of it's kind of a scam. I definitely think NFTs are like the biggest grift in the world.
They're already the central bank has already made their own cryptocurrency. Yeah. And I mean, the digital coin is essentially how they want to bring about the global social credit system. So, and the people who think that you can't hack into crypto, yes, it is more difficult, but I don't know that the level of difficulty has ever barred them from doing anything they wanted to do.
Well, if you don't have a Federal Reserve and you don't have these overarching governments, and I'm not completely against a local government, because eventually you're going to kind of break down to some kind of governance, as in, privatized police force where you voluntarily pay the police. And if they no longer serve their protection contract, which is probably going to be signing, then once again, you no longer pay them, you find another company, or as we all do, we have the right to protect our own lives through whatever means necessary within reason. Obviously, you can't go out and just, go murder people if you suspect that they're, violating your freedoms, but you have an absolute right to defend yourself. That's not given you by any government. That's given you by your creator, whether you believe in that or not. I'm agnostic. I don't claim to know. But all that being said, if you don't have a Federal Reserve, then you don't have the empire, because they can't afford to do that, right? And nobody's going to be going to war with each other, or at least not in any meaningful way, because what's your incentive? If goods aren't crossing borders, then generally soldiers will, and it's within everybody's best interest to maintain good trade relationships with each other in a system where you don't have an empire, right? Like you see, we just drafted $40 billion over to Ukraine. Well, what does that do? Would we be able to do that? Would either of you two voluntarily send a dime over to Ukraine if somebody asked? Personally, I wouldn't. I don't think you guys would either. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Nope.
you don't see people lining up to do
this. They
this.
took our taxpayer dollars to do it. Yeah.
Because once again,
I think they got plenty of it already.
well, it wasn't even our tax dollars. This is our grandchildren's money, right? This money was conjured into existence. It was monetized debt that is now sent over there. And the way I consistently try to phrase this is that this is your stolen purchasing power. The power that the purchasing power that your money has in your retirement right now, that will be gone because of this profligate spending, because of the $40 billion that went over to Ukraine, because of the $10 million that they spent on the C word test tubes that turned out to be empty pop bottles, the millions of dollars that they spent on lizards walking on treadmills. I could go on for days, right? Yeah. That is stealing your purchasing power. So when you retire, you are not able to buy what you need to buy in your retirement. That's what the Federal Reserve does. So this is why I'm an advocate for anarchy.
They're a private company.
Yeah, they're a private company. But once again, Janet Yellen and Joe Biden are high five, and Obama couldn't wait to appoint Janet Yellen and say that she knew exactly what she was doing in the 2007, 2008 housing market crash, even though she was completely blindsided to it. And all the Austrian economists knew it was coming, because you could see that low interest rates allow frivolous spending and artificially low interest rates. Artificially low interest rates allow profligate spending and irresponsible people to take out loans that can't afford to pay them back. And when interest rates gets raised, then people default, which is what happened in 2008. And all the people who are in charge of the Federal Reserve
now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I was just going to say that.
Right. Yeah. But in a real economy, rising interest rates would be a good thing, because your savings would increase, right? But nobody saves anymore. Why would you save? Your purchasing power is being stolen right from underneath you. So why save? Offload the shit. Get rid of it. So, but that's, once again, you fix the monetary policy or the monetary system, you fix a whole host of other problems. And without a government, without a Federal Reserve, you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, once again, it's a private bank, but why is it that Joe Biden's appointing the head of the Treasury?
Yeah, and Trump actually appointed BlackRock to manage the Treasury.
Yep.
She's, not a conflict of interest at all.
No, God, no.
Totally fine, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
the people I want running our.
So what's the argument, I guess, for not dividing the states? I guess. Like, what's the benefit of not having a national divorce?
So I don't really think that is an answer. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. And my first thought is, I don't really think it's the states that are divided. I mean, we have cities that I would be happy to cede to the elites, the global elites. And that's what they want anyway. I mean, when you look at the Agenda 2130 plans, they create the smart cities, and the smart cities are the model. Their whole climate agenda and depopulation agenda.
Could I stop you right here for a second? I hate interrupting people, but there was something that I really want to kind of throw to you guys. I was telling you guys in the chat in our messenger group about my buddy Tommy Salmons, and he was on the Freeman or the Pete Quinona show recently, talking about how actually some of these I can't remember the exact organizations, but they're actually funding some local schools through 501c3s to help influence localities and local schools. right? So
Localities? What do you mean localities?
so like as in they're going into like, so I live in Vandergrift, Pennsylvania, right? It's a real small town, about an hour north of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Some of these global elites are actually funneling money down into local cities and make sure to make sure that some of this stuff's getting taught to children, like some of the stuff that you see being pushed.
Oh, you said
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the agendas. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I completely butchered that, but yeah, basically these
No,
things
I
are being
get it.
pushed
Yeah.
by
The whole trans
locale.
agenda, the CRT, all of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
These are actually being pushed at a much higher level down into local cities. So this is another reason why libertarians and people who are interested in defending their children, defending their communities, need to get more active locally to make sure that, yeah, you get seated there instead of somebody that's going to take money from global elites that are going to want you to teach your children about transgenderism and, you know, that you're a terrible person if you eat meat, or CRT, right?
Yeah.
You need to see people locally. And once again, here in Pennsylvania, I sound like a broken record. I tell people this all the time, but there's plenty of libertarians getting elected who I know personally, who are great people, very principled, that are, you know, getting seated. And once again, if they're not going to do what they're elected to do, then if there's a Republican or a Democrat who's better than you, then out of the way, right? Because it's go time, right?
They should be held accountable to the people. I mean, that's what self-governance actually means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We elect them, so they should answer to us.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Cities are the biggest problem, but
So-
I do think in like the blue states, like the suburbs, schools are definitely an issue as well. Like it gets, you know, like, you know, New York is blue, for example, like not just in the city, you know. Oh my God, I must rant about this. Give me a second. I saw a post from somebody who I follow on Instagram, and you know, we used to like perform in like, you know, same belly dance circles and whatever. So she posted about a show, and she's like, I will be responsible for, I forgot what she said, either like RSVPs, and I will be the COVID like health inspector or some insane title where I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I lost it. Like it was not a troll. It was like a real, like she like titled herself where she will be checking your vaccination status at the door. I saw this yesterday. I was like, wow. I just had to so that's those are New York suburbs for you as well. So yeah, it's definitely not just cities that are the issue, and I do think that it's coming from the schools for sure, through, and also some churches and religious places, unfortunately, too.
So I have a lot of things to say on that too. So yeah, definitely institutions, but so that is still coming from like the cities. Like a lot of New York State is actually quite red.
Yes.
You know, it's not like all of it is. So yeah, the cities and the suburbs, right? So but I think my point was, I don't see it as like we have these blue states and then red states, and then we can just separate and divide the country. I don't actually really think I think we have pockets in each state. We have pockets of, you know, like in California, a lot of California is actually quite red, but then you've got San Francisco and LA. And yes, there's other pockets, you know, San Diego's kind of purple. And then you have some of the suburbs of LA that, you know, are kind of, and yes, I agree with you with the schools, but the schools, I mean, that was the Marxist agenda. You know, they always had the 5 pillars. I mean, it's really more like 12 pillars of society that they had to infiltrate. And education was like paramount, because through education, you could infiltrate all the others, right? Because where are you going to get your doctors from? They have to go through years of schooling. Where do you get your lawyers from? So the whole legal field is infiltrated because they get educated. They're indoctrinated through the education system. You know, where do you get your journalists and media? They have educational training. They go to school for that. So, you know, there's all these different industries, the psychological industry, all of these fields, and it's all the linchpin is the educational institution. And those are again affected by the NGOs, because we have like I'm going to blank on what the acronym for it is, but basically the educational department system, which is, under the umbrella of like the DoD, the Tavistock Institute. The Tavistock Institute actually very heavily influences our Department of Education. So there's all these little subsidiaries of these NGOs, right? And then they're also tied to some actual government entities. And I think public school is one of the biggest problems in our nation, because that is where, right? That is really, and unfortunately, it's really starting to affect private schools too, and parochial schools. That's why I see so many parents are starting to, the homeschooling has definitely become much more prevalent than, that was one of the silver linings of 2020 also. Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're getting somewhere when Keith Olbermann tweets about it, that it's like a stupid thing to do, or whatever the hell he said.
Yeah. I really don't think there's any libertarians that don't advocate for private schools and abolishing the Department of Education. And once again, if you abolish the Department of Education, which actually not even libertarians advocate for this. I mean, there's even some Republicans like Thomas Massey that puts forward a bill, I think it's like every single year, saying that the Department of Education shall terminate. And that's like one of my favorite things to read. But if you don't have government schools, then there's no way for them to be influenced by these NGOs, because they're going to be beholden to, once again, self-governance. They're going to be beholden to the parents. And if they don't like the way their kids are being taught, then they're going to get out of here. But beyond secession, just by state, who says that you even need a state at that point, right? So like, if you look at the free state of New Hampshire, it's cold up there. So I like don't see myself wanting to move there. If I'm moving somewhere, I'm moving somewhere warm. I'm sorry. Pennsylvania is very, very cold sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah. But they're an example of, very, very, like, there's a pocket of people who are mostly libertarians that live there, right? It's a very, very small state of just libertarians.
Traditionally was a very libertarian state. They're actually the only state they still don't have seatbelt laws.
Oh, I didn't know that. I feel like I should know that, but no, I didn't know that. But who needs California as we see it now? California could just be like an arbitrary line on the map, and then you see different cities. These cities no longer obey certain state rules. I don't see secession as just necessarily stopping at states. It could go down to cities. The objective of every libertarian should be decentralization. Right. It should be decentralization all the way down to the individual. And that's not to say that you're just this autonomous individual throughout time and space. No, you have your collectives of your family and your community, but you don't necessarily need this overwhelming government over your shoulder at all times. You can have local governance, and that's what I advocate for.
Well, so there's a big difference, though, between like the states divorcing and no government. I don't know how we tied those two together. I feel like then they're not the same at all.
They're not, but they definitely go hand in hand, at least in what.
Yeah, they do go hand in hand for sure.
So interesting. Yeah. I don't really see that, but I do want to address the secession of it and how it doesn't have to be just the states. I mean, that was my point. I was like, I definitely think that you can see these cities and see these different pockets and see them to the global elites that is what they want anyway. They want full control over those, and let the people in these other areas be autonomous. And yes, actually, I mean, really, if they didn't have such a socialistic fiscal policies, then I would actually say like Switzerland is kind of a great model for this. And I've recently learned about this. I was not really familiar. I had a friend who was telling me all about this, and I started doing some research on it. It's like, wow, this is fascinating, because I always thought of them as like a socialist country, so I just never really thought that their government would be something to model after. But they have, and I'm blanking on what they're called, but it's like these isolated little communities, almost like communes essentially. And it minus the communistic, fiscal structure, where they have like controlled healthcare and controlled, everything it is socialistic. But if you take that away, the fact that all these little entities are essentially kind of communes and they have self-governance, that's actually a really great model, because then people are invested within their community. And so the governance is no longer a top-down structure. But that really is the key. The key is decentralization.
Yeah.
The decentralization of power, I think, fixes almost all of the problems.
Yeah.
Yes. And actually, I wanna ask what you guys think about this. So I very much am like I love talking and I love, exchanging ideas. But one of my biggest issues, I think, with kind of like our circles is I don't hear enough like, what can we do? Like, what actions can we take? And I'm not really sure that I have all the, I definitely don't have answers, but there's a lot of like infighting and a lot of conflicts, like, what's the right thing to do to work through the Libertarian Party, to work through, the Republican Party. And like, I don't know. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts on like, what's the best way to kind of like, roll back the state. And weirdly enough, by by having like our people in this machine. But like, I don't know what else to do, obviously.
So, Courtney, do you want to go first?
No, you can go first, and then I'll. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is part of the appeal of Ron DeSantis, who I very openly criticize because his congressional record when he was in Congress was very abysmal. He was very pro-spying apparatus, pro-Israel, and just very, very bad all the way around. But now that he's governor, it's kind of a different story because he has this populist streak about him where he absolutely loves those people and he's not afraid to play the left's game the way that the left plays it, right? He punches back. And I don't agree with everything he's doing.
Interrupt you. So the two things you don't like about him is that he's pro-Israel and he's what else?
He's a Zionist, he's a neocon, and well, yeah, essentially just that. He's a Zionist and he's a neocon, where he's for pretty much the empire, and he's very, very bad on civil liberties. I'm sorry, that was what the other part.
How is it?
I had no idea.
If you look at his voting record when he was in Congress, what's that?
Oh,
how do you? Why would you? What makes you say he's a neocon?
Because he's very, very pro regime change, and he voted for a lot of the different wars when he was in Congress.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you look up his congressional voting record, you'll see that he was very, very pro, essentially, the empire.
So which empire?
The American empire, as in, we go over and bomb people over the Middle East and basically the regime change. He was very, very, he signed on for all the regime change. And he also signed on for the FISA court warrants for all the different Fourth Amendment violations. But once again, as governor, he's great because he stands up for his people and he loves his people. So that's the appeal. And once again, he's punching back. Now, I don't agree, once again, with everything that he's doing, but he's effective, and I don't, I won't criticize that. But really, the way that things I think will have to go is that you do elect people locally who are willing to nullify and not obey different unconstitutional orders. So this is where I get really, really frustrated with libertarians, because I see a lot of libertarians saying all cops are bastards. Okay, well, you say that, but let's think about who these police are. They're members of the community as well, right? They're your sheriff. They're your neighbor a couple doors down. And do they enforce bad laws? Yes. But once again, not everybody in the world's a libertarian. And no, there's never going to be a time in history where everybody in the world's a libertarian. Stop thinking that everybody has the same perspective as you, and stop talking to people like they have the same perspective as you. Meet them where they're at and try to win them over. But in the meantime, why don't you become friends with your local sheriff, right? So when lockdown orders come around and you get a note like Sarah did, my fiance, that says, this is to show the police if you are out, that you are legally allowed to be out in 2020, become friends with your sheriff. So that way, when those times come around, he says, I'm not enforcing this. I have no right to enforce this. You look at Ian Smith, who opened his gym over in New Jersey.
That's who I was thinking about too when I was bringing this up. Yeah.
Is that cop a bastard? Because he turned around and said, all right, you guys are all in violation of federal law, but with that being said, have a good day. Is that guy a bastard? Are you going to tell me that all police are bad people? When there's police who do stuff like that, do a lot of them do bad stuff? Sure. But why don't we win them over? Why don't we win the argument? Why don't we win police over to our side and convince them that, hey, these rules are bad rules. You shouldn't enforce them. Let's make friends with people. Let's not burn bridges. Let's build bridges. That's my idea. And that's how you stop the government from enforcing a lot of these things, is that you go to the boots on the ground and you make sure that these boots aren't willing to knock down your door.
Yeah. Yeah. To address the police issue, I mean, this is, again, like the city versus more rural areas,
Right.
because in cities, the police tend to be, and I'm not going to make a sweeping blanket general statement, I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, but you have the propensity for corruption in the police force is so much higher in the cities, because a lot of times they don't live in their communities. They're not incentivized to, they're not there to protect the constituents because they don't live there. They don't care. Right. And there's a lot of other reasons, but they're incentivized to be much more corrupt. Whereas in small towns where you have a law enforcement, typically they live there, like they know most of the people in the community. They want it to be a nice, safe environment for their family and for their kids and for their kids' friends. And and they take a sense of pride in being the one that's going to be able to provide that and make it a safe place. So I think that's a huge, again, though, that's the huge problem with politics in general, is that these people are not incentivized because they don't have to abide by the rules that they set. So much of this corruption could be eradicated if they had to abide by the rules that they were setting. And that's why, right, I know it's laughable.
They never do. They never do.
Yeah. But this is why all politics are local. Because if you were really that's the whole premise behind local politics. Like you can only, run where you live.
Mm-hmm.
The federal politics, I think, is where everything just gets so corrupt.
Yeah.
So I think a huge to answer your question, Yao, though, is, and it's very similar to what you're saying, Kyle, is that I think a huge part of the solution is local. People need to get much more involved on the local level, on the local community, get on the school board, do things that are not necessarily glamorous, but figure out where you can have a voice and where you can be a part of the solution. And even if you're not going to run or, somehow be involved in a political campaign locally, I think that people can just start with really vetting their local candidates. So we recently had a county election, and I actually canceled my entire day to do research, because what I've learned is that it's actually not that easy to research and vet local candidates, because they don't have the same, right? You don't know as much about them.
Mm-hmm.
There's not the same level of publicity. And most of what is put out about them is just publicity. It's just like either a hit piece or a promo piece. And so to really dive in, and it requires some level of discernment, which people really don't seem to have these days. There's a dearth of that. And it requires some due diligence and some time and some critical thinking. And I think that that's something really basic that people can really do. They can start to look into who are their local candidates and really start to vet them. And after that, because we're all fallible and we may not make the best choices, we should hold our candidates accountable. What did they say they were going to do? Did they do that? And I think what, people on the political right claim that the philosophy behind it is supposed to be grassroots, and then that will trickle up, right? And that sets the example, just like you're talking about DeSantis. So one of the great things about DeSantis is he's an example of this, because the way that he's governing Florida has actually set some precedents throughout the country, and it's set an example, right? And that is exactly what the political right philosophy purports. However, they don't typically live up to that. Instead, they live up to what's really much closer to the leftist model, which is top down. And that's every 4 years there's a presidential election, which we arguably actually have not legitimately had in who knows how long. They didn't even say that in 2000 years. So, even there they said, it's been going on a long time, really long. This is not new. This was a different magnitude, I believe, but not new. But because it's been going on for so long, and every 4 years, people on the political right, whether the libertarians, the conservatives, the Republicans, you name it, get all worked up about the federal elections, and they've completely slept while the left is infiltrating the school boards and the counties, and right. So I think that is a huge piece of the pie for how we can fight back.
I think because it's gotten so bad, now we're kind of like learning, but we have like a lot of catching up to do, unfortunately. So I think we are in the position to win. It's just that we can't expect it to be overnight because their takeover was not overnight.
No,
hundreds
of years of indoctrination.
So if you look at what it took to sell the American people on the Iraq War, it took a lot of propagandization, and once again 9/11 happening, and history starts today, as in nobody ever looks at the root cause of things. I want to throw out the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus strategy, and because it gets strawmanned a lot, especially by libertarians. But before I do that, is there anything else either one of you two want to touch on?
Yeah, I want to say one more thing because this is really quick. But another huge piece of the pie that I think is people really underestimate the power of it to fight back. It's to stop complying. People really just need to just civil disobedience and just say no. No.
And don't use the language.
We're not opting in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do not use the language of the people that despise you.
Right. What did Orwell say? The revolution will be complete when the language is perfected.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Yael, do you have anything else to say before I go?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
All right. The Libertarian Party Mises Caucus strategy is to run libertarians locally who can win, and even, let's say, like on a state level, who can win. And if there's good Republicans running, like let's say Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, or someone who's good in the Republican Party, even Ron DeSantis, who's been good as governor, you don't run a libertarian against them. And what you can also do with the Libertarian Party is you could primary people where you can say, look, if you're not better on these issues, I'm going to steal every single vote I can away from you unless you're good on these issues, which I think is a very, very useful thing, because once again, how do you hold people accountable? You don't reelect them. Everybody wants to be reelected. So if you take those votes away, or if you can bet, you can just make them suffer just enough so that way they bend your will, then I'm all for that. So that being said, that's what the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus is trying to do. And then on a national level, every 4 years, you run a presidential candidate, not for hopes to throw a libertarian in the White House, but you use it as basically an education campaign or a messaging campaign where you basically wake people up, right? You spread the message of libertarianism and also advise people to run locally. So that way more and more people hear this message and then are awakened to the, libertarian philosophy and the libertarian ideals. That's the LPMC strategy as I understand it. And I've had 2 debates, one, well, I shouldn't say debates, but roundtables. One was with a couple of people criticizing the LPMC strategy, and there was a lot of good, stuff in that. And then I did another episode criticizing the basically the GOP strategy, but basically 2 strategy episodes of my podcast that did really well, and people seem to really like those. And I did it that kind of way. I didn't want to do a debate, but I just wanted to kind of put the ideas out there and let the listener decide. But that's basically the Libertarian Party strategy as I see it.
Interesting. I'm like in this sphere, and yet I'm just always out of the loop with what is happening. Also partially by choice, because
you're better off.
I'm like mental sanity.
Oh yeah, no, I've never been into the drama, and I never will be. I say I keep my, everything cleansed around here. But but that's why I am curious because I always think about like the infighting and how big that is of a turnoff, because I'm sure there's infighting with the left. Maybe they do it behind closed doors. I don't know. But all I'm thinking is I feel like we're so quick to like hate one another. How are we going to have the time to like recruit people to like our ideas? That's what I've been trying to kind of like think on.
The only thing I would say to that is just don't spend as much time on the internet, because when you go to the local meetings, and you interact with people, or even if you go to conventions, everybody's incredibly friendly. Now, when you get down to business, sometimes it may get ugly for a brief period of time, but honestly, like even people that like dislike me, super kind and cordial in person. And look, if you're not willing to
so weird online, man.
Oh yeah. And hopefully if we ever meet in person, then hopefully I'm the same. You guys understand, I think at least I'm the same person here as I am everywhere else. But people are much, much more friendlier in person. And if you're not willing to work to put forth liberty and all you're about is the Libertarian Party, then I don't want to associate with you anyways, because look, I'm not a partisan. I'm partisan on liberty, 0% partisan on party. I don't care about the party. I care about the outcomes.
So this is where I was going to go with it. But before I address that point, I want to say that I think, yes, people are, I mean, it's, when you're looking somebody directly in the eye, you wouldn't say the same thing necessarily that you're going to say on Twitter, 140 characters.
I totally would.
you might, but I think a lot of people, and you're not like super mean, but there are people who like troll and they say really mean things that if they were to look somebody in the eye, they probably wouldn't say. So I don't know, maybe you, I don't know. I don't think you would, you don't do that on Twitter. So I'm not thinking that
here and there. No, I'm not that mean, but if I am mean on the internet, I will be exactly the same in person. I think that's why I have such a hard time, like, understanding that people are like significantly different on the internet and in person, because I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, though, because a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to look somebody in the eye, and a lot of people are, they're kind of hiding behind that veil, right? So yes, in person, but there's still within parties, like there is so much infighting, there is so much corruption, there's so much of this, like, we may be against each other, but we're shaking hands anyway across parties. So what this brings me to what I was going to say is that I'm not really a fan of the party system at all. I mean, it should really be about ideas and principles and policies. And I think so much of that label, it takes people out, particularly the layman, because a lot of people, they don't have the time, they don't have the interest. Some people, I mean, I don't know that everybody necessarily should be able to vote, but a lot of people, that's a whole nother conversation, but I actually don't know that it's like a given right. I think it could be a privilege, but I agree. Right. So I think that a lot of people, because they don't, there's that letter next to whether it be the R, the D, the L. And so they just automatically, blindfold, have an allegiance to that person, whereas they may know nothing about their past voting records. They may know nothing about, what policies they want to implement. And these things are going to be way more important than whether or not they have an R or D or an L next to their name.
Yeah.
George Washington didn't want parties. So yeah, I'm kind of with the anti-federalists, who, had a lot of things right. So
no, I completely agree. And this is a problem with kind of I hate saying it because it's so cringe what I hear other libertarians say, but like kind of the duopoly mindset where
frozen. I thought it was just like a suspenseful, like,
yes,
they just good pause to be like dramatic. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Too. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
It like really worked. Oh yeah.
Every single time I go to talk, it has to happen. But once again, it's really cringe when libertarians say the duopoly, because it's just it just is what it is. And if you talk to the average person who just doesn't really care about politics, they're just working their job, they go home, take care of the kids, they walk the dog, they got 2.5 kids, 3 cars, and a white picket fence and a golden retriever. They just look at whoever they vote for every 4 years. It's D all the way down the line, R all the way down the line. Nobody really sits there and pays attention, but it's a blessing and a curse in a way, because now the government's so large that now you have to vote for like the lesser of two evils, right? Or at least you feel like you have to, because now it's like, this is going to have such a say in my everyday life. Whereas it should be like the government's so small that it doesn't matter who's in there, right? Where it's so insignificant that it's like, oh, I have to vote. Well, now we see with some of the Republicans here in Pennsylvania, literally trying to make Election Day a holiday and increase pay for Election Day workers. It's like this. Wow. Why is it? It should not be this big of a deal. It should be like, oh, look, it's time to vote. And to your point earlier, Courtney, really only net taxpayers and property owners and people, with kids and families should really have the right to vote, because they're not going to vote to take away stuff from other people.
Yeah. Well, and I think also there should probably be like some sort of a basic civics kind of test.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, property owners, you're just gonna have like BlackRock voting, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly,
So maybe the
right?
test is a better option.
Yeah,
BlackRock
perhaps.
and Vanguard, and I'm not sure that those are the only people I want voting. So
yeah, well, people.
I mean, in theory, if we didn't get to this point.
Yes, and it made sense back in the day when the Constitution was first drafted. That made sense, but now I really think like a civics test is really, I often, when I talk to immigrants, they know so much more about how our government is run than people who were born and raised here.
Yeah, because you have to take a test to get your naturalization certificate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
Good times.
Well, that's,
you know all about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because.
But imagine if people had to take that test in order to be able to vote. How much more informed would people be? How much more, perspicacious would they be with their vote?
Yes, and also another thing besides just like learning. When you put effort into something, you feel like you really earned it. You put in time, you put in effort.
You're invested.
And it just feels like, exactly, and money. And then when you get that certificate, it's like a nice celebration. It's like you did that. Like you feel kind of like accomplished, not just like, all right, here's this piece of paper, bye. It feels very nice. It was actually like, to give them credit, the ceremony and everything is like, it's a very like memorable thing. I totally agree. There's something to that.
Yeah. I think that would be, we would really see actually a lot of difference in our country if people just, they know so little, and we've deferred so much as a result of knowing so little. People have just abdicated their responsibility because, well, I don't need to know. And so I'm just going to trust that somebody else will make these decisions for me.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go down the Roe v. Wade rabbit hole, but
we can.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So this is, we were kind of hitting on this a little bit earlier, but it's essentially just returning abortion, whether or not to outlaw it to the states, which is really the way it should be. And It's actually a good thing because, look, I'm pro-life as pro-life gets. And well, maybe not as it gets, but, if you guys want to kill babies over in this state, I don't agree with that. And to just leave it there. But if I would much rather move somewhere where this is the norm. And it's funny that people are saying, oh, this is hookup culture coming to an end. Okay, well, I don't necessarily see that as being a bad thing.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. And this is an abdication of responsibility because people want to be able to do whatever they want with their, with their sexual reproductivity, and then, be able to kill a baby if they don't like the obvious outcome. Because I think everybody knows if you're having sex with somebody, there's that chance, no matter what, no matter if you're on birth control, no matter if you use a condom, there's always that chance. Just because you took a risk and the risk didn't work out in your favor doesn't mean you should get to kill somebody. And this is just kind of it's really hard to talk to people who are pro-choice about this because they look at it as the woman's body.
They're not pro-choice, they're pro-abortion. We'll just not buy into their language, right?
Yeah. To be fair,
bingo. I like it.
Yeah, that is a good retort. But yeah, so the pro-abortion people will look at it and say, well, this is the woman's body. Well, actually, no, because the choice isn't whether or not to kill the baby or not. The choice is whether or not to have sex with somebody because you have the most choice. Well, and on top of that,
on top of that, okay. I was going to say, but it's not just her body because you murder a pregnant woman, it's a double homicide. So it's
right. Well, and on top of that, but the fetus is actually directing itself once it's conceived. It's not the woman that's doing that. That's actually the fetus that's an autonomous being developing itself from its inception. So it's not like, and yes, the mother is necessary, but it's not just the mother, it's the baby as well.
Did you hear the speaking of not using their language? Did you hear they're starting to say women's it's not women's bodies now. It's women's access to healthcare.
Yes.
Right. It's reproductive health care.
That's the yeah.
It's not healthcare, by
I
the
realized
way.
I
Murder is not
know,
healthcare.
but I think because like the body argument is probably not working for them anymore, because you say that there's two things. One, there's the baby's body, and two, oops, my body, my choice with the vaccines.
Yeah.
Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So I realized they've changed it now.
So an interesting point. So you may have seen, I retweeted this today about the Satanic Temple and how they're fighting for the right to preserve abortion. And I, said how basically their child sacrifice ritual, aka abortion, they're fighting for that. But I think there's something bigger actually going on with that, because that's always been, I mean, they do child sacrifice, and that's a known thing for people who are Satan worshipers. Were you familiar with that? Or
Nope, that's my face.
No, that's a thing, and it's a very real thing. I know it's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. It's very real. It really happens. I know people who have either done it, witnessed people doing it. Like it's very, very real. However, that has been going on for a really long time. There really are devil worshipers, Luciferians, so forth and so on. The occults are that is a real thing. But that aside, I think they have an even bigger agenda now in terms of this narrative that's currently, that I think when you talk about body autonomy, I think bodily autonomy is something they want to eradicate. And that is why they're shifting this conversation with abortion, because if they can, because bodily autonomy is really a barrier to any forced injections, right? And that is definitely something that if you read the white papers, that is in their plans. They want to have the forced injections. And if you can, argue that you have bodily autonomy, then we have the choice, right? My body, my choice. And that is literally your body, your choice. You have the choice of what is injected into you, what is not. But if they strip us of this bodily autonomy, then we don't have claim to that. And I think that's a lot of what's going on. I think, because they play the long game, right? That's the Fabian socialist
they sure
type
do.
of, this is incrementalism. And I think that's a huge part of what's going on right now and why they're pushing back so hard on this, because it's not just their eugenics plan, which is absolutely a part of it. The Planned Parenthood, the birth control pill, all of these were, and abortion itself, the eugenics were a huge part of this creation and the development of that whole entire movement. And they're still very much in that fight. However, I think that this is an extension of it, and what we're seeing now, they're trying to lay the groundwork for that. So,
wow.
Yeah, well,
that's another level.
Yeah, I view abortion as a mostly a cultural issue, because we have a culture, once again, of people who have been told that they don't have to take responsibility and they're not responsible for the consequence of their actions.
Sure.
And so when you, to kind of seed it back to a lot of the issue, is that it is an educational problem as well, because we've taught people that it's okay to not accept responsibility for your actions at all times. So really what you need to do is teach, women and men that, look, if you're a man, you are responsible. You have a moral obligation to a child, right? If you have sex with a woman, then once again, the consequences of that. If you're a woman, if you choose to have sex with a man, the consequences of that, and you don't get to kill somebody just because you don't like those consequences. It's an educational thing, but we've told women that it's okay to get rid of this child, right? You should go pursue your career. And not only is this, good for eugenicists and sacrificing children, but it's also good for, keeping women as taxpayers, right? You keep more women in the workforce to just keep them paying taxes. And you can actually see this with Amazon, and I think even Tesla, if I remember correctly. But
Yeah,
there's some companies
fly you out to
Yeah.
California to have your abortion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But don't worry,
Crazy.
Elon is our savior. You know, he's saving the day.
Yeah, I've been skeptical of him ever
Crazy.
since day one. But yeah, but
We can go down that rabbit hole too. But yeah.
See, I'm not surprised on that one though. I'm not surprised because I did
Well,
not.
I'm
think
not
that he was-
surprised either. But
but I still like him, and I still think that he's necessary, just like Trump, because there are like cultural necessities. There are people that come in and they just like bitch slap our culture, and I love it. They just like shake it up. You know what I mean? I didn't expect him to just like have my back, but
I don't think he has your back. So I like
that's what I'm saying. He doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I like the disruption.
I like.
Yeah,
the
I don't
disruption.
expect him.
The disruption is awesome. I think the disruption is great. My problem is the people who have put so much trust in him and think that he doesn't care about free speech. This is my opinion. I don't think he cares at all about free speech. I think he cares about data. He cares about data. He wants to collect the data. And you think about like everything that he's involved in, none of the fourth industrial revolution can be implemented and executed without Elon's technology. So I don't know if you've read, you said you read COVID-19, The Great Reset. So you know all about, right? I don't know if you have, Kyle, but it was not a fun read. I mean, that was
don't read it. It's so stupid.
Well, it also just was not well written. I mean, it was a really
that's what I mean. It really was like they rushed it. They just got like it's a hot mess.
It's basically like a bunch of corporate Google degog is kind of like what it is.
Yes. Yeah. With a lot of predictions that like did not come true.
Yes.
They're like, and clearly there's just like, they just so confident. It was like written around like the BLM riots, like the very fiery summer, but mostly peaceful. And they're like, and clearly there will be much more civil unrest. And there like literally has not been since kind of thing. And just like laughing as I'm like reading it. All these like confident predictions
because they were laying out the plans and they thought that their plans would come to fruition. So
exactly.
So Elon is involved in, so we know about Tesla and the connection to the Green Deal and the green energy and also the infrastructure bill and the kill switch. That's why they want to have like the green cars, because they're electric and they can be remote controlled. This Tesla, and he's coming out with his Pi phone. So, he can connect his Pi phone to his Starlink, where, he collects all the data, and Twitter is a great way to mine data, especially if you're dissenters, right? And then we have, what else do we have? We have the CureVac, which is, connected to just what it sounds like. It's connected to the mRNA technology. CERN, he's funding the Hydrogen Collider through boring. And we know all about CERN and what their goals are. And what else is there? I'm going to blank, but I mean, he's just involved in like literally every bit of technology that they need to execute the fourth industrial revolution. And his baby mama, Grimes, who wrote, We Appreciate Power, which was all about transhumanism, says that the Starlink and the Neuralink, the brain chip, are going to bring about the communist utopia. And the Neuralink, he was partnered with Charles Lieber, who was the one who got indicted for the Wuhan lab tax fraud. He's been doing all the nanobot technology, and he is partners with Elon on Neuralink. Yeah, I don't know. There's more I'm blanking on, but he's involved in quite connected. A bit. What?
I think the question is not to be like naive, but like I guess at what point do we just think that these people, and I think I commented this on your Instagram, at which point do we think that this guy is just like loving, like seeing how far he can push science without realizing like how detrimental it is, and like meaning like all these
Ian Malcolm's your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they didn't stop to think whether they should. the Jurassic Park
Exactly.
line. So I
Exactly.
would say that is a lot of people make that argument with him. I don't think that that's the case with him, because I actually think he's a DARPA operative. SpaceX works directly with DARPA. So I think there's a lot of control there. As much as people think he's such a free agent, I actually don't. Now, I could be wrong. These are just my opinions. Like I hope to be wrong. But I also think that he genuinely believes in this transhuman agenda. He thinks that there, is benefit to merging us with AI. And Kurzweil,
Yeah,
who's
I'm
been
not
awfully
into
silent.
that. I'm going like the opposite direction of that. I just want to like I'm about to throw all my stuff out the window.
Yeah, he like worships that. And I mean, he is the elites that will have the control, right? That's what Yuval Harari says, is that he literally says that they will create an ark, like, Noah's Ark, but it will be an ark for the elites, that they will be survivors of this because of the scientific advancements, but the masses will not survive the proverbial flood.
What do you think about when Yuval Harari says that the only way to kind of like fight this is for us to also have surveillance like on the government? Did you hear that?
To have surveillance
so basically,
on the government.
Yeah, basically because they have so much surveillance on us, like the only way for us to like combat this is for us to have just as much surveillance on them.
Well, of course, because they don't want governments, right? They say that by 2038, the United States will be dissolved, and then by 2050, there will be no more nation states, and there will be, the remnants of like power blocks. They're looking to put a socialistic one world government. They want a socialistic new world order inside a socialistic one world government. That is the goal. So of course they want to surveillance the governments, because they want it to be, a superpower globalist government. So they want to surveil all the individual ones, because nobody should have power except for, the global elite.
Them.
Yeah, exactly. Them. Them. Yeah.
Which it's a good system.
It works for them.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, no,
but it wouldn't actually be fun to me. I mean, because I kind of like human beings having autonomy and having free will. I mean, I think that's the beauty of with this whole ecosystem of the world. And I don't think it would be fun to try and control.
I meant fun for them.
Yeah. But I guess
for us.
so, but I feel like they're so devoid of humanity to even think that that's fun.
Yeah. I don't think they're necessarily thinking about humanity when they're thinking about verifying every single human, putting chips in your brain and make you go eat, in the pods and eating bugs.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a to kind of bring it to a more positive note.
Yeah.
When you're
thank you.
Please.
Yeah. When you're I don't know how much cardio you guys do, but about 2 years ago, I used to do a lot of running, and there is something kind of magical about the human experience of just being able to go outside in the woods and just run alongside a creek or along a trail. And it's just peaceful, quiet, even if you got like music or something like that, just kind of be out about in nature. Or like Sarah and I will go riding our bikes on this trail, and there's like this waterfall that's just beautiful, and it's you're way miles out in the woods. There's just something cool about that. And I've played the VR stuff, but like there's just nothing like being able to smell the water and feel the cool air of every single drop of water that's coming off the rocks. There's something about that you don't get from a artificial reality.
No,
and also like the sun that's like healing you as you're like out there, and the water. I mean, it just doesn't even compare. I do wonder what these people think, and if they've ever experienced anything like that. Maybe they're so out of touch with like just like the simple things in life, which are like it's exactly what you described, which are like the best. Honestly, I don't know how you get so detached from that.
But we're electromagnetic beings. So, there's so much in being present with nature and, being in a real authentic environment that we absorb that we don't get in a metaverse and in a, VR situation. As for them, I don't know. I mean, I question how fully human they are, but
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
there's something to be said for the term lizard people, but
yeah,
Yes.
our hindbrains don't necessarily know that we're doing this over the internet right now. Our hindbrains just think that we're having interactions with people because I could see your eyes, I could see your smiles, I could see your face.
right.
But when you're physically in front of another person and they may intimidate you, you feel that in more than just kind of your brain. That's a whole bodily experience. And
Sure.
there's something about that once again you just can't take that away. And I don't
Yes.
think going in the pod and eating bugs is a good solution for that. There's something about
Yeah.
sitting down to eat with your significant other at a restaurant or something like that, like having human experiences they tried to take away from
Yes.
us for the last 2 years.
It really, yeah.
I cannot agree more. Like, so I, for like 15 years, I taught, group fitness classes.
Right.
And when you teach, like, I mean, you guys probably know it's very similar when you're, whether you're weightlifting in the gym and people are just around you, even if you're not communicating with these people like verbally, right? The energy of those people around you, all
Totally.
kind of like working towards similar goals, high energy. Everybody is kind of there's something in the air. And there's,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think even more so if you're going to do like a dance class or like a yoga or something like that. Like when you're dancing in a group, don't tell me that's the same thing as taking like a Zoom class by yourself in your living room, right?
Not.
I mean, there's this insane thing. Like you're actually secreting like hormones that are
Yeah,
like
of course.
making you, like all these incredible hormones that are making you like legitimately like fall in love with like the people that are in the room with you. I mean, it's crazy. It doesn't even compare to like a digital workout, right?
No, your heart literally has an electromagnetic field up to 12 feet. Yeah. So when they say like people are magnetic, and some people are more magnetic than others, like your heart actually has a frequency that resonates out. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't compare to like anything else, and that's why I think like, how do you get to the point where you think that everything should be remote? I don't know. Ironic as we're doing this remote, but there's obviously like fun to it because we're all in different states, and then we have this like but like if we were living in the same state and like we still chose to do it remote, I would be like, come on guys, like come over, or like this like so silly. So there's obviously the benefit of doing this with people who you can't like just meet right now. But it doesn't compare. Like if you guys were like in town, I would absolutely much rather like hang out with you guys, in person.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah. Well, when I was talking to some other people who go to some of the Libertarian Party conventions, I always make the joke pretty much it shows that my bands play if we're playing like a bigger festival. I am kind of the guy that peer pressures people, not unreasonably, right? I'm normally the guy walking around with a bottle of whiskey, asking everybody to do a shot, and then if they say no, obviously I leave them alone. But I if I know they'll do it, then come on, man, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna drink. But there's something about that connection. My band plays those Rock for Life shows where over 500 to 1,000 people show up, and there's something about just being in the presence of other people, not even necessarily.
We lost him again.
I'm so
all with
every
the
time
same
you
goal.
like
It's every time when I'm getting to a good spot, right?
Yeah.
I know. What is this?
Oh my god, it's got to be the feds. I'm gonna. Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is another good one. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait,
Come off. But
Come on.
I think all you guys have probably experienced this with going to live music is that once again, there's something in the air when you're around other people just to kind of enjoy. And I live for that. And that's what I tell people who are, a little bit too steeped on political stuff and on the internet too much, like, go outside, go touch grass, go to a concert or something and enjoy a drink with somebody, go enjoy dinner, because we're very social creatures and we love enjoying food with other people. We love just doing stuff with other people. It's not good to be in isolation.
No.
Yes.
And that's it.
And I think
go
ahead, Courtney.
I was going to say that it's such a huge part of our health and wellness that they don't want. Yeah, but go on.
Yeah. I think all three of us are actually like performing. Like we have the stage aspect too, right? Like of like that's another crazy thing when you're on stage connecting with an audience. I mean, there's
Yeah.
something just insane that happens there. You know, you can feel sometimes there's such a connection that like
Yeah.
you can I don't know. I can't even explain it. You can feel what they're feeling. There's a vibe in the room. There's an energy in the room, whether it's like a happy song, a sad song, some sort of like deep emotion. I mean, you cannot compare that to anything else. It's like
No.
it's euphoric and yeah, it's
So
incredible.
yeah,
Tell me about
that's
your
right. Oh,
performance, please.
oh, sorry. What was the last
Tell
part?
me about your performance, please.
Oh yeah, you wanted to, that's so interesting. So all three of us are performers. Yeah. I
Mhm.
didn't really think
Yes.
about that, but yeah, absolutely. So before I tell you what I'm performing, but as an actress, absolutely. I loved theater. My strengths actually don't lend themselves to theater as much as they do to film. I was a much better film actress. I'm kind of like the nuances, the subtleties, like, resonate in my face. I'm very transparent that way. But theater is kind of larger than life personalities and, like very loud voices, typically like bigger people, just, over the top,
Yeah.
and I was much more of a subtle kind of, that was my strength. But I loved theater because for that very reason, because every night was different, because you could feel the audience. And it was just, there's just something about like, it is a conversation, not just with your scene partner, but with
Mhm.
the audience.
Absolutely.
You really, and every night was different. And you like, if it was a play that had an intermission, the beginning could be totally different than the second half, afterwards. And a lot of that had to do with just the energy of the room. So, but this performance is an aerial performance. So I'm doing sling, which is my first time performing sling. Sling is like the single point that has a loop. So hammock has 2 points, but sling is like
Got it.
yeah. And so it's an aerial acrobatic dance, and the theme is 80s. So I'm doing it to Journey's Don't Stop Believing.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I think it's going to be next month, but we haven't like finalized it yet. But I used to do like motivational speaking, sharing my story, and I would do aerial acrobatic performances, mostly to prove to people what's possible when everyone said it wasn't, So
So cool.
I am going to do, I think, continue this performance that I've already choreographed, and then do another apparatus and do my speech in the middle, which I've never done before. Usually I just do one. Yeah. So it'd be kind of cool.
Ooh, it's exciting. Are you having it recorded or?
Yes. I'm hoping they'll record it. If not, either way, I'm going to set up like my iPhone and, tripod
Nice.
and make sure I have at least a copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like that you guys mentioned kind of the feeling of the room and the fact that it's a conversation, because I've played shows with my band where you literally have everybody standing up and singing along, and there is something like I can't even describe it when I'm playing my band songs, like songs that I wrote and people singing them.
Sure.
There's something electrifying about that versus when you go into a hole in the wall bar and everybody's sitting down watching you. There's there's definitely two different kind of deals. But once again, like you said earlier, it's a conversation because you see how people are reacting to know if something sounds good, if you're kind of hitting, if you're resonating.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
It's really something. I don't think they can see that those are like the white pills, and you're right. You have to get off the internet for that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that I remember when 2020 like first hit, and all of my speaking events were canceled. They were like, well, you can do Zoom. And I'm like, well, I can't really do aerial performances on Zoom. I guess I could tape one and like just show that. But it so doesn't have the same. And I actually did a couple. And I mean, it was great. It was better than not doing it, but I
Sure.
so much prefer the in-person. There's just, there's nothing that can compare to that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I
Yeah,
think this is the nice note.
We did a
go ahead.
oh, well, just real quick. We did one show that was like recorded and broadcasted, which was cool. And there were some people there, but I guess the one cool thing about COVID in 2020 was that we did a lot more outdoor shows. And the coolest show that we got to do was opening for Steel Panther at the Butler Drive-In. There were it was a sold out show. Over 1,000 people showed up, and it's pretty cool to be able to play your guitar and feel it beating in your chest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, seeing that from when I was a kid, being the guy on the other side of the barrier to being on the other side, it's cool. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I don't know if I should just go through and read some of the comments.
Oh yeah, do it.
Yeah. Okay. So one person asked how long each of you have had your podcast for.
Oh, I only had it for a little bit, and I'm on a hiatus because I'm trying to figure out my life.
That's fair. That's good.
I started mine back in October, actually, and I'd like to believe I've been pretty good at pumping out 3 episodes a week. So about 6 or 7 months, and it's treated me relatively well.
That's awesome. Pretty awesome. 3 times a week. Yeah, I just started doing 3 times a week because I have so many sitting on my desktop, and I was like, I need to get them going. The whole shooting them was happening way more often than I think I anticipated. So, which is great.
I definitely use days off from work to try and get a little bit more done, because I normally have to record them on weeknights. So it's like, all right, I'm up early, I got to go to work, and then come home and do a podcast. It's time I don't have to spend doing other things. So it's a balancing act, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And so then someone said he feels super strong on and energetic on keto, but it's expensive. So he converted to plant-based, and I feel good for the most part. A key component is physical activity for adaptability as well. I think that, as well as bacteria. I think that's a really interesting point that he made about it being expensive, because I think that is exactly what they've kind of tried to. Right? They're making meat so expensive.
Keto is not high protein. Keto is high fat. So I think keto is actually much more affordable than carnivore. Carnivore, the cheapest thing you can really do is like the ground beef. And then obviously you can get like the lowest quality of ground beef. It's still like fine. And eggs, obviously just ground beef, eggs, just bang that out. And it's actually okay. Keto, I think, is cheaper because you don't really need all that protein. It's mostly like fat. So you can do like, cheese, eggs, veggies.
Quality fats are not going to be super cheap either, unless,
butter.
I personally like Rob Goodwin's approach from ketogenic bodybuilding. He always phrases it as keto is not about high fat, it's about low carb. And
I agree with that, though.
I think you should definitely have more protein than not. Like, you should generally shoot for at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, just for overall body composition, satiation, and that obviously help building muscle. I think that's the most important thing. And some of these keto guys get so freaked out about glucose.
Yeah, I don't think it's the glucose. I think just technically from what I did it like God knows how long ago, so I don't remember anymore. From what I understood is once you hit a certain amount of protein on keto, it will kick you out of ketosis.
Yeah.
So I think it's just not technically keto. It would be like low carb, which I think is better, actually.
There is actually no benefit to being in ketosis when it comes to body composition. Now, if you have like seizures or something like that, or like a medical condition, then that's a completely different story.
Totally. But there's some great studies with keto.
Exactly. Right. And that's originally what it was for. But if you're just a regular person, then ketosis really doesn't mean anything at all, other than maybe some mental clarity. But when it comes to body composition, it's literally useless.
Yeah.
I say eggs. If you want to go cheap, just eat eggs.
Eggs and ground beef. Look, 3 or 4 years later, still I eat ground beef literally almost every day.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
You know what? Oh my God. This is like the weirdest meal, but like, hear me out. I feel like once you start eating like healthy, you eat weird shit, but hear me out. Okay. Grilled beef, ground beef, like whether it's like a burger or just like whatever in the pan, with just salt, like nothing else. And then I've been doing grilled bananas but just like that's it. Just like grilling a banana like on the pan, and they taste like plátanos. And it's so good. Like, I don't know why I have not discovered this before. And for some reason, together, it's like an epic combination. Just try it out. Let me know.
Kind of like people do grilled plantains. So I guess that kind of makes
Yeah, exactly. Like plátanos, but without like,
Yeah.
I think they add like sugar and
Yeah,
shit
they
to
do.
it, and they fry it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even put any oil on.
Huh. Well, I don't actually like bananas, but
Epic.
if I did, it sounds like it would be good, actually.
It's
Well, people grill
such a
pineapple. And I do like
They
pineapple.
do.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh,
If you ever go to like
I forgot about that.
yeah, if you go to like a churrascaria, like Rodizio, they always have it there. Oh, I think those are like my favorite places in the world.
Oh my God, churrascaries are so good. Oh, and they try to fill you up on those sides.
Oh no, don't touch the sides. Don't touch the sides.
It's so funny.
Wait, where is this?
Churrascaria. So
It's
like,
like
if you go to
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
called churrascaria. They're like Brazilian steakhouses.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Fogo de Chao,
you know,
Texas
where
State
they, like-
Brazil, Rodizio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Yeah,
So
they're
good.
absolutely incredible. Yeah, they're one actually got shut down near me. It was called Green Forest Churrascaria, and their food was so good. And they got shut down shortly after COVID. I was so upset.
Oh,
sucks.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So many
that's devastating.
places. And then
Yeah.
somebody
I know.
asked who would think transhumanism was a good idea. It's extremely evil. Yeah, I think anybody who's not fully human is my only conclusion.
Yeah, I don't know. I really think you just have to be so out of touch, like
Yeah,
just for so many years.
Yeah.
Maybe your entire life. Like you're just born into these circles. like-
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like if you live in a city your entire life and do nothing but just focus in on that, then yeah, you may see the appeal of it. But no, people who like have touched grass probably don't think it is.
People who touch.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I would agree. Well,
Anything else?
yeah, I don't know.
Anybody else comment?
No, I'm looking. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? That's kind of what we're taking now. I see some new people have just hopped on now. We've been on for almost 3 hours, but
Oh my.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
people are hopping on now. So yeah, if you have any questions you want to or things you want us to address, now would be the time to do it. In the chat,
That
we'll
would be
read
the
it.
time.
That's pretty funny. I can't believe we've been going for almost 3 hours.
Yeah,
Well,
that's kind
I guess
of
not
insane.
quite
I'm not gonna
because
lie.
we started a little bit later, so maybe like almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
That's still a lot.
It's a long time. Yeah, it's a bit. It's been great though.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I had a good time.
Yeah, I feel like we covered like all of the topics.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's like if you guys want to know anything about life, please just watch this.
Yeah, well,
We
it's probably
covered
somewhere
most of
along
it.
there. Yeah.
If you have
Great.
any good stuff, and thank you for watching. Yeah, yeah. If you have any questions on life, watch this. We probably covered it.
Yeah. Questions on life or conspiracy theories. You'll probably be able to find a thread or at least a good place to start.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah, super fun. Well, thank you guys for being here, and yeah, we
Yeah,
should do it
thank you.
again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you
Well,
for having us.
Likewise.
Yeah. Our plugs.
What?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, who wants
we
to
should do
plug?
plugs. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go
Everybody
ahead, Kyle.
plugs.
Okay.
Cue
so,
the music. Go.
There we go.
yeah. Now, if I turn on the guitars right now, my fiance will probably burst through the wall and strangle me. The podcast is called In Liberty and Health. I'll be having Quincy, the episode with Quincy, airing tomorrow, which we talk a lot about life, and it's pretty motivational. He's just an awesome dude. So be sure to subscribe, check that out. My band is called A Common Crown. And I'm on Twitter at KMatovic, KMatovcik. And yeah, if you guys got any questions about, being a Jack and Tan libertarian or about music or anything like that, feel free to hit me up.
Awesome. Love it.
Nice. Okay, you guys can follow me at Yael_Becker on Twitter or at Yael Becker on Instagram. I'm mostly active on stories, not so much on the feed. So, and my podcast is called Can Relate, although it's on hiatus right now, as I try to figure out how to give you better content as I figure out my life and maybe some belly dancing in the future as well. So, yeah, I haven't danced in so long. So, I want to kind of start integrating that slowly but surely. So, yeah, that's about it. yaelbecker.com for anything else that you can't remember.
Awesome. Well, I am Courtney Turner. I am the host of the Courtney Turner podcast. I have a show called The Right Voices. I think we are going to be shooting our 3rd episode of that this week, and we're going to package that together. It's kind of like Counter to the View. I have my show, WIM, What is Movement? And we explore ways that movement helps people to heal emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And my website is up. It's CourtneyTurner.com. It's being revamped. So it's going to be released pretty soon. So it'll be kind of a hub, because those who know, I'm going to repeat it. And a lot of you may not know, but I had a site with 2 other people. It was called Truth Matters. It was kind of like a news. My partners did more of like the news kind of articles. I did more of like the investigative journalistic pieces. So I wrote like one on, shedding, one on the jabs. They were kind of a big one on CRT, and some kind of shorter, more newsy kind of stuff. So, but periodically I just feel the urge to write. And so this will be a hub that'll have all of my articles, and it will have spaces to purchase tickets to my events, because I'm going to start speaking again and doing the aerial performances. So it will all be on there. And definitely please like and subscribe, because I'm experiencing like surreal kinds of machinations, we'll just call them. But yeah, I was watching like in real time, just like numbers being messed with. So the best way to combat all of that is to flood the algorithm. So just, if you like the work that I'm doing and you enjoy this kind of content, then just like it, share it, subscribe, comment, and get all of your truth seekers involved. And yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
Thanks.
thank you. Have a great night.
Awesome.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
watching. Okay. I am going to figure out how to, oh, wait.
You're still live.
I'm still live. I'm going to figure this out because, oh, wait. I know how to do this. Sort of.